We're live.
There's Chuckles. Chuck McNeil's in here already. And we're not on live yet. I never know how long it's going to take. Sometimes it's just, nope, there I am. Now we're on live.
Now we're on live.
Good morning, everybody. Let's see, Chuck, Brenda, Silly Teddy's still under the bed, right in the middle where I can't.
And today's episode is not brought to you by, but endorsed by Blue Emu with lidocaine. And we never want to forget the red, white, and green can bag bomb.
Bag bomb.
Bag bomb. My hands are trash, dude. They're just
I bet they are. Oh, yeah, and I cut myself, too. That's another thing.
Well, I don't know if you can see that or not.
Right in the middle of your hand. What in the hell did you do?
So I was planting some trees for my wife, and they come in them cool plastic buckets that you got to kind of cut to get the root wad out, you know?
Yeah.
And with the sheep's foot blade on my Moore pocket knife.
Made in Texas.
Made in Texas, by God, with real bone handles or bone slabs. I just sliced right to the palm of my hand, and it just felt like a paper cut, you know? And we've been watching the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I tend to participate and clap along and like, oh, come on, and clap. Or I've been watching bull riding and clapping. And I just keep popping it open, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, maybe you need.
And then Danny's here, and we've been fishing, and we went fishing yesterday, and I paddled my shoulders out of joint, you know, chasing trout, and yeah, it's just my hands are trashed.
Good morning, Dean. Welcome in.
Good morning, Chuck. Good morning. There's Dean.
There's Dean.
Poked and Uncas.
Huh? Poked and Uncas.
Dean said, good morning, Poked and Uncas. Good morning, sir. I hope you're like gnawing on some big, cool piece of meat or something.
I'd like to have a steak biscuit right now.
Is he here?
I should have run to Hardee's this morning. Oh, he can't hear me. Oh, give me a minute. I'm trying to figure out why. I know it's changing the subject, but I'm trying to figure out why my chat box is so big now. Or I can't see my comment box. You know where I would type in. So I'll just type in over here.
So mine has two options: private chat and comments. And
yeah, because you're seeing.
I click on the comment.
Yeah, well, you're good. I say that's because you see this screen, one I have right here on my left, right.
Got it.
That's the screen that all this is coming through and out of. But over here I have the
super special screen.
Well, the actual YouTube screen. I don't know why I open both of them, but they look a little bit different. I can kind of see a few things show up over here that don't show up over there. So I kind of I try to keep track of it. I don't know why, but I do. But see, for example, on this screen over here, you know what? Let me fix something real quick. I see a problem already. Let me do this. I can't stand being backwards. On this screen, on this side, I can't see the like button. So I have to go over here to say, hit the like button, everybody.
Boudreaux.
Dean, I'm very sad.
He's
We don't.
hating on somebody.
Oh, do what?
I said he's hating on somebody. He's always hating on somebody, except Sean and I.
Dean, we're in a food. We're in. Mark, you don't even need to listen to this. But we're in a food desert here. We have about 3 places to eat. None of them are the ones I'd like. I mean, I miss getting a salad. I can't get a good salad anywhere now. I can't. Brenda can't drive down to the place where she gets like burritos in a bowl. It's like a Mexican place, but everything's just in a bowl, no bread, which are really good. Beans and your version of meat and that kind of thing. Dang, the chances of us moving again are probably 1 in 10 million, and I'll burn. Well, never mind.
That ain't happening.
It's not gonna happen. You just have to kill me and burn my stuff or sell it because I can't move again. I don't think I'd survive another move. I kind of did 2 moves in the last year. I mean, I did help you sort of move Caitlin back. I just didn't help. I just wasn't able to help lift and carry a lot of stuff. But I made a lot of boxes and I folded a lot of boxes I packed boxes and I taped them up. So I did help a little bit.
That's a lot.
I
The picking up part's way better than the packing part, in my opinion.
We went to, we haven't, Taco Bell is one of the few things in this town, but I haven't been to one in a while. And I saw something on.
Well, they still make the best hard shell tacos ever.
Yeah, well, they had something they showed on TV the other day, and it was like, oh, God, now they flung a craving on me. So I told Brent, I said, let's just swing by the Taco Bell. I mean, that's what we ain't been there. So we did. And Brenda got like a burrito supreme or something. And now she said it was the best one she's ever had. So she wants to go back. They must have, she said, well, what if it's not the same burrito maker? I said, well, I don't want to tell you about that. You'll just have to take your chances, I guess. So she says we're going back today to see. We can do that. I need to go see a lady about some rocks. And there's a lady down not too far from here on Facebook Marketplace, which I highly endorse now, or recommend rather, who has a bunch of bricks, pavers she wants to get rid of, and she's got marble. She's got a bunch of broken marble. I don't want to call them slabs, but they're stacked up in layers like a slab. Some of them may be slabs, but some of them are broken up, and she wants to sell them, some of them pretty cheap. So I need, when I put my sidewalk in out here, sometime in the next 12 months,
you're going to need some filler.
I want to put some pavers in it. I got this idea about putting it down. I've been trying to think all kinds of ways, to put it in. I'm going to dig out the path, remove the sod, probably go a little deeper than the sod. Well, yeah, I will go deeper because I don't want it to be above the grass line, so they can mow over it, or I can mow over it, or whoever rides the lawnmower. I had the best bean burrito ever. Well, it's a burrito bean supreme, wasn't it, Brenda? It had other stuff on it. Anyway, and I'm going to put sand in, pack it down, do all that tamping crap you got to do. And then I'm going to put some sand in it. But then I think I'm just going to take Quikrete and just spread Quikrete all down through there and water it down and just let it set with other little rocks and things mixed in with it. So it's kind of cobbly, and I got that idea because we used to set posts. The maintenance guys at TVA would put a post in the ground and they'd dig it out and tap it in some. Then they'd just pour a couple of bags of Quikrete in there, fill it full of water, and just drive off. Next day they'd come back and it'd be set up harder than Kelsey's
watch his buckets.
Yeah, right. Kelsey's thing, who shall not be named. Hi, Tina McNeil. we got up to on 3 devices, but I'm watching, always watching finally. 3 devices, wow. The only if that gets count as 3 hits. Three. I feel kind of special now. Let's see here. And I got hummingbirds. Brenda brought me a hummingbird feeder, and it's right outside my window. I might have to move it a little bit. The center part of the door blocks it, but the hummingbirds have absolutely wore it out since she's put it out there. I mean, it's one battle after another. And one came right up in my face this morning. I was putting my GoPro out there. I've got some video if I can figure out how to do it. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to learn how to do that this week. There's a female and a male. And they just been fighting and chasing and carrying on. You know how they do. It's been a hoot.
Huh.
What are you waving at?
I was waving at Tina.
No, I thought you were waving at me because something. You didn't hear me or something.
No.
I've seen people do that on YouTube.
Did you
Oh.
Did you get Caitlin's ruthless hummingbird photos she took yesterday?
I did, and you know what? I wish Brenda did last night. She said, "Oh, look at this hummingbird," and I wish I'd put that on here too. I should have. Maybe I can do some of her stuff next week. I have got her frogs, which I thought were really good, also, or tadpoles, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, she's good at photography.
I wonder what she could do with
like a big old camera.
Yeah, I mean, she's doing all this with a tablet, right? Or a phone?
Both. She uses her phone mostly.
Hey, Carol, welcome in. Oh, before I forget it, and some of you probably already know this, I also started a Saturday Morning Shine chat room on Facebook. Now, I did that because I still can't get in my damn... Pardon me. I still can't get in. I'm going to be bad naughty this morning. Might as well just tell you right now. Because that's why I'm a poke bear. I'm just not in a very good mood. I'm trying to be, though. I'm trying to work on it. So I started a new room in Facebook because I can't get into this one on my computer. And I realized that Instagram is really for the phone. It's a phone app, for photographs and that kind of stuff. But when I'm working on a show and doing this, it's a whole lot easier for me to do all that stuff and put it in than it is to try to do it with my thumbs. And suddenly I can't do that because it won't let me in. And I'm still trying to understand why it won't let me in. So I went ahead and did a YouTube. Now, here's the problem. I don't know how to invite everybody in the YouTube. Not YouTube, Facebook. You should have got something, Mark and Caitlin.
I did, and I was going to wait to talk to you before I did anything. I didn't know if it was somebody.
Oh, it's me.
Playing a game or.
No, we just have chat in there occasionally, and it's where I usually post my shows in there every week. And it's just a different way for people to find it. And you don't have to do anything. It just seemed like,
I just got it like yesterday.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's just there. It's just another place to comment on that kind of shows and things. And like I said, I put my shows in there, and I can cut and paste a lot easier on my computer than I can on my phone. And but Carol, I don't know if you've got a Facebook. And I realize you'll find this even if you don't, but I didn't know how to put you in there because I looked for Car Key and that's not there. So if you've got a Facebook and want to tell me on the side, you're not on Facebook. Okay, well, that's probably why I couldn't find you. Well, anyway, I guess you'll find us. And I will try to put it on my phone and get it out there, but it's just a pain. But there's a really pretty male sitting there right now. God, I love when he turns and looks at me, that neck it's like a flashing red light. And he left. They run over to the trees and they run over here to the bushes beside the house. Wait a few minutes, come back and get a little bit more sugar water. I mean, they might as well just sit there and drink all day. I need to do it like I know what I need. A hummingbird feeder that looks like a bar. So they can just belly up to the bar and sit there all day and have crackers or peanuts and sip their nectar. Anyway, what's everybody else doing this week? Everybody had a decent week? I hope so, because can't everybody have bad ones? I mean, if we all do, then we're just in a world of hurt. Anybody got any big trips planned or anything? I need a little bit more coffee there. Brenda's working on her sewing room and trying to get her shop back up to speed, and maybe get her Etsy shop open back up again here before long. I don't think it's open right now. And recommend everybody check out Kelly's Etsy site, because Brenda, if you've got that, you're welcome to post that on the group. If you've got her Etsy site address, just copy and paste it in there. She's got some really neat looking stuff. Might not be for everybody's taste, but I think they look pretty cool. Some of them are a little bit out there, but most of them are pretty, I think, well done and in good taste, I guess. Carol, I'll try to remember to put everything into the Instagram group. Yeah, that'd be great, Tina. I mean, if you guys can put it in there, it's fine. I'm struggling with it, and that's yet another reason I'm poked this week. I can't seem to get that working. I'm concerned about this. I had my GoPro going and doing the hummingbird things, and it failed, of course, because why wouldn't it today? And on my stand turned over. What in the heck? And so hopefully it's still working, but it's getting really hot. So I don't know if it's what I had it mounted in, and that may be all it is, and I can fix that. Or if there's something else going on, but man, it got hot. Of course, the sun decided to poke out, and it was blasting in there. Hey, Kay Atwood, good morning. I don't know if Chris will bop in today, but Chris had a big old time last week at Air Oshkosh. And if you, I know some of you follow our friend Julie and James's daughter Sarah on there. She had a big time. All her and all of her friends seem to have had a big time. To be so young again, eh? Yeah, maybe not quite that young. Maybe 25 again, 30. I was so much more robust back then. I was glad Chris got to do all that stuff. I know he had a day or two there where he had kind of rough days, and I appreciate that. I want to go do things like that, and I guess I'm shy away from them because I know I will have rough days like that. Tina McNeil, Brenda can't post links because you took away her wrench. Oh no, did I really? Why did I take it away? I took it away because she was being naughty. Seems like I took it away because she was doing something to time it. Oh, she was timing out people. I'll give her another chance, but I'll just make her a standard mod. How about that? Now she can, Tina. Posted some yeah, he did. He posted some good stuff. Most of Sarah posted some decent stuff, and some of her pictures were really well. I guess they all had an airplane accent, but most of them are about her and all of her young friends who were just having such a good time, and sure makes me jealous. I mean, I just. I can't. It's been so long ago. Man, I wish I was that fit again. I'm sorry. My hummingbirds are distracting me. I had another big male pop on And then somebody chased him off. So, oh well. Okay, who have I missed? I was going to wait for about a couple more minutes, 10:30ish, and let people come in, and then we've got slides. I don't have as well. Maybe I should go ahead and get started. I've got a nasty habit of.
Yeah, I got to leave at 10. So.
Okay. Where are you off to today?
Well, we're going to go out and go wander about in the desert a little bit before it gets 900,000 degrees, which it's going to do. But I paid this guy. I don't know if you can even see him.
Well, I see something.
Big money to like show up while Danny was here.
That big moose.
That big moose. Well, there's two of them in there, but one
of them's a big male.
One of them's a big male. He's the one that's been living here for years now, and he's gonna be a toad this year.
Has Danny already been out there?
He's here now. I
didn't realize that.
He's sitting in the living room right now waiting on me.
Well, hey, Danny. No wonder you hadn't been around much this week.
That's what I said. I picked him up day before yesterday, and we went fishing yesterday, and I blew out every joint I own and my hands. and we're going to go rock looking today. And
well, he's welcome to come over and sit with us.
He ain't going to come in here. He already told me so.
Oh,
I'm like, you can come sit down. And no, I ain't doing. No.
Yeah, you can be. You ain't no better than me and Mark, and we're here. We sit.
You ain't no better than.
Here we sit.
Anyway, we got up yesterday morning to go fishing early.
Yeah.
And the sun was it wasn't up yet, but it was coming up, and you could see at least. And we drove out the end of the driveway, and there was 3 moose right across the river from the driveway.
Wow.
And
I only got to see, what did we see, 2 moose when we
when you were here.
Yeah, we were driving. We were actually coming in or coming back from Cameron.
Oh, yeah, they were down in the river there on the way in. They weren't even here at the property, but we've had this bull hanging out here for a couple, 3 years now. And
right.
And we've got to kind of watch him grow up. And he is a toad. He's got another month and a half of antler growth. He's going to be a boomer.
I don't know if you saw this or not. I don't know if Brenda sent it to you, but Brenda showed me a video yesterday or last night.
Yeah, the one with the moose that shed his antlers.
Yeah, did you see that? He just started shaking all over from his butt to his head, and then they popped off.
Yep.
Kind of like he had to build up and then hit the eject button.
he felt the need to get rid of those things.
Brenda said she thought it was a drone footage. They had been following him.
It was right straight over him. It had to have been.
Yeah, I mean, that was neat. That's the first time I've ever seen that. Good morning, Dave. Space Mountain Dave Contrell. I didn't mean to avoid you there, buddy. We were just talking. Oh, hey, Adventures by D. And I did not see you pop in. I was going to put you on the new list too, the Facebook chat room. If you're interested, I'll do. I didn't know if you had Facebook either, so, and I don't know if it's under this name. But if you're interested, just drop me a line and I'll put you in there too. It's just, I just use it mostly for notifications, but we also post, silly dog videos and stuff in there from time to time. Pretty much open to whatever. So far, nobody's put anything in there I had to cut out. So here we go.
Africa.
I've been wanting to use this picture just because, morning cuz, howdy little cuz. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the coyotes, the coyotes and the dogs, the sheepdogs.
Checking in.
Cartoons. Morning, Ralph. Morning, George. As they clock in or
When they
clock
clock-
out. See you tomorrow, Ralph. Yes, I Facebook on the chat. Okay, I'll look for that, Dave, and I'll put you in there if you're interested. I mean, it's no big deal one way or the other. I definitely enjoy having you here, and I don't spend enough time on your channel. I need to get caught up with you guys. I think they were at Dollywood not too long ago. That in this area, our area.
Well, I just saw photos of Dollywood with like 4 foot of water running down the streets.
That's possible. Cause I did. They did. I forgot about that. The way that place is built, it would. I would
Man,
think
it was like for real flooded.
Yeah. It's built. I don't know if you remember. It was. What was it when you lived here? We went there a time or two to get coal, from the blacksmith there, Silver Dollar City. I think when you lived here, and it's changed tremendously. But if you know anything about it, you know this country. It's built in a holler.
Yeah.
Right up a holler, and so when it rains, it's going to funnel right down through there and run right
Well,
down.
it was. I went to it over the years growing up 3 times, and it was, I mean, three different outfits. It was Gold Rush Junction,
Yes, it
and
was.
then it became Silver Dollar City,
Yeah,
and then it became Dollywood.
that's correct. It was the first time I ever went there. It was Gold Rush Junction,
Right. Me
and
too.
I was a kid when I did that, so that dates back even further. So
Yeah.
Kay said they had a rough afternoon Thursday. I tell you what, we've had some rough afternoons, and for the first time in a long time, I've been not scared, but the weather reports I've been getting up here from National Weather Service have been pretty
Violent.
well. They've been warning. Did you hear that clock? They've been pretty open, or pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? They're letting you know that might be some high winds and that kind of stuff. And I can see it. We live in a holler. I would resist calling this a valley, but it has to be a holler. Maybe it's a valley. Anyway, it's wider than most hollers, but still, weather just runs right up through here, and it runs over the next ridge too. And sometimes I can see it over there, but it doesn't cross this ridge to get to us, and it's rough looking. They've been warning a lot about, roof damage and siding damage and window damage. I mean, just everything. And fortunately, we've not had anything that bad. We had one come in from the east the other day. That bothered me because that's the wrong direction.
It used to be you just had to wait till to get there, and you didn't have to worry about it for like
That's a good point.
3 days in a row before it actually maybe manifests.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
That's what my cousin, when I had him out here in Wyoming, he was like, "Good God Almighty! Like you can see that coming for 100 miles." And
yes, you can.
Your blood pressure's increasing that entire time, and it might take half a day to get here, but it's going to run right over the top of you.
Yep.
I'm like, yep, that's kind of how it works. So,
yeah, and you can see that rain from, long, long ways off. It's really coming down. And, well, even if it's not, you can usually tell. Well, I mean, you can sit here
or whatever.
You just don't have a lot of. You don't have as much distance to see it from. It's got to be right here before we really see it. We had a power line down across the street. They blocked the road, and I had a difficult time getting home. Well, that stinks. Brenda, what are your and your daughter's Etsy shop's name? Yeah, Brenda, you probably forgot I asked you that about posting your website, your Etsy sites. Anyway, if she gets around to it, we'll do that. But since Mark's on a tighter schedule than usual, I'll get started here. But I have a question. I just realized that Diana and Mike aren't here. Does anybody know? Were they going to be gone? Because I thought the last I talked to her, they were going to be here. So hopefully everything's all right.
I was hoping Mike was gonna be there because he likes to see moose pictures. So
Yeah, I know. We need to save. We'll have to make sure we save that for him because he'll want to see that. I'll post it next time. How was I just looking at it on my phone?
me?
No, did I have that up on the screen?
No, I was just showing it like.
Oh, you were holding it. Okay, well I'll get
Oh,
that.
I don't know what just happened there. That was
Well, send it to me later, and I'll
I'll,
put it
I'll
on it.
send
Yeah.
it to you. Here he is kind of out in the open walking.
You sure that's not Bigfoot? Mike might think that's Bigfoot.
Yeah, it might be.
Well, anyway, I hope anybody know where they're at. I thought they were going to be here, so maybe they're out traveling today or something. Good for them.
He might be shopping for a Harley.
Well, that's possible. And all the usual business. Please hit the like button or the unlike button. I always say either one's fine. Obviously, I'd rather have the like button. I'd rather you did like our content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and leave a comment. I was looking yesterday at my analytics, which I don't do very often because I'm not that worried about it, and I actually have had more views than I ever thought. A couple thousand, well, not a lot, but a couple thousand. Not a lot by many standards, but more than I realized. Okay, this is kind of where we stopped, and we're going to start back here. But this little guy, this is a diker, right?
That's a diker.
And this is the diker that I believe
that's an enormous diker.
Yeah, this is the big diker that
he's this tall. He's
yeah, he's only about yay big. Big. Not even big dog size.
They're about 50 pounds or 60 pounds.
Are they? Okay.
But they're they're still a fairly small antelope, but his horns for his species are ginormous.
They're longer than his ears, if you can.
And my PH was like, good God Almighty, look at that thing, and I'm like, it's this big.
I'm not shooting anything that big.
And he's just like, oh my God. Anyway,
and he's full grown. This isn't like going out and shooting fawns in the woods around here or something.
No,
he's about that size, but he's full grown, and he's part of that. What do you call it? The tiny 10 or the tiny dozen?
10.
Yeah, that Lujan thinks is a better or more.
It's cooler than getting a big 5.
Right.
In his mind.
And I put this in here probably to show the baobab again from the other side of it. And
the jungly stuff.
Yeah, the terrain here. I had meant to put this in earlier. Now, this is in the wet area. Is the river behind us or in front of us here? You know?
It's so that photo's taken looking straight north, and the river would be, there's a ridge line right there between where I took the photo and the river. And this was at a drainage that went into the river from a bunch of springs, and it just was like jungly, and it looked like something off the Jungle Book or Tarzan movies or whatever. Big leopard hunting that country right there. Great big leopard.
I bet. They I put this in here to show a little bit of juxtaposition of, you got this desert looking scrubby country, kind of like kind of like your country, but different species, of course.
Looks a lot like New Mexico.
Yeah.
Like southern New Mexico.
And then you flip over to the other, and then you turn around and walk by the river, and you get this jungle looking stuff. And This stuff is thick and full of things that stick you and pull on your clothes and
Yeah, both places, and lots of bites seasonally, and I mean, things that could get you.
it's kind of like we always said about the desert. Everything out here scratches, stings you, or bites you. I think how we put that.
Yeah.
Or sticks you, stings you, or
bites you.
strikes you, or bites you. Everything out there's got, it's after you all the time.
And the bulk of that country's thorn scrub,
Like
that deserty thorn scrub country.
Yeah, and everything out here is full of thorns too, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where that baobab tree is, it's all just thorn scrub, and it's dry. And the photo next to it, the green one, that only occurs where there's a lot of water,
Yeah. And everything there has evolved to protect itself, I guess you might say, from
ungulates. Because there's
ungulates.
like a bazillion of them, and they're all eating those plants.
And at the same time, the ungulates, like a giraffe, has developed that tongue that allows it to eat out of those taller acacia trees, which are full of thorns.
Yep.
And they use that tongue to go in there and pick out at least that's how I've been always
the good stuff. Yep.
And that's what happens in nature. One thing evolves to eat something, and that thing evolved to keep them being ate, and then they evolve. I mean, it's a never-ending process. It's just long, and we don't see it. Now, this has made me see something here, Marcus. I'm looking, and you won't be able to see. Oh, well, maybe I can with this. That looks like a nest. Is that? Do you remember?
Those are weaver birds.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just now noticed that. And I don't think I showed these guys before, but these are a couple of your trackers. Or
yeah, what? So that the gentleman on the left is a guy named Tuso. And the guy next to him there on the right is a guy that they call Mechanic. And nobody really knows his name. But they called him Mechanic. And then the guy with me, the two people with me, Miami was the tracker, and Lujan was my professional hunter.
And you said these
That's
guys
a really odd looking Hereford cow.
Now you went over there just to hunt with your bow, but you learned some lessons, I guess you could say, and they offered you a shot to get something else, and you took it.
So that was Lujan's great grandfather's Seiko rifle from Finland.
I just noticed that has got a really long barrel on it.
It's a full stock rifle. It's not a half stock like a normal bolt action rifle. It's a full stock, and it was cool. And I was honored. He's like, "Hey, here, shoot my great grandpa's gun," and I'm like, "Oh, you bet I will."
Almost can't turn that down. Yeah, and it was a 308 cartridge, or
308
7.62 NATO, if you are interested in that sort of thing. But I see a barrel band on it. I hadn't noticed that before. But it's what I used to call a Mannlicher stock, which was an Austrian gun maker, and they made longer stocks and put things out there. There were several companies that used to sell a version of that. And some of them I really thought were well done and neat. And this one, I wanted to make this rifle.
This particular rifle was, I can't remember the number on it now, but this is one of 3
that this guy built.
That Seiko built.
Oh, Seiko, that's right. It's a Seiko. Okay.
One of 3 because of the barrel twist.
Yeah.
it was just, it was like a short run. They did a special run on, 3 rifles, and Luhan's African great grandfather ended up with one of the 3 of them. So it was cool. Anyway,
Anyway,
if you
it's
like
neat.
rifles, it was a very cool rifle.
I guess what I'm thinking is they only made 3, and I wonder if all 3 of them were 308s, because for Africa that's kind of an unusual round, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe not completely, but I mean it's not something you see in bolt action rifles.
But he bought that rifle in like 1937 or something. And or
Well, that's cool.
35. It was pre World War II.
Right.
Anyway, just a cool rifle.
Okay, that's and that is a
Blessbach.
say it again.
Blessbach.
Blessbach.
Yeah.
Sort of a medium sized antelope, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. 140 pounds or so. And then those are sable cows and calves.
Yeah, here's a calf and here's a cow
And then Bogo.
hanging out there hiding amongst them. I was going to tell you this morning I got up.
He was the partner of the bull that my buddy harvested. We called this bull the gray bull. He was just kind of gray. Most of them are like black. I mean, really imposing looking, and he's imposing looking too, but he was lighter color. And he had an unfortunate birthmark on both shoulders.
Yeah.
You can see like a white spot right where you would hold your crosshairs on him.
Target.
On both sides, like bummer of a birthmark, Hal, kind of a deal.
If any of your Larson fans and remember the original,
it was a white-tailed deer with a target on its chest.
I have a cup that has that on it that somebody got me. It's a deer standing there, white-tailed deer with his belly's got a target on it. It's bummer for birthmark, Hal. And I saw a really cool far side yesterday that I got to share with you. I'll see if I can't do that. But I just thought I thought it was interesting that he was mixed amongst those cows and calves in there. And I was going to tell you this morning, I looked out my window, and my next door, the tribe next door, the Nickaswaleys or whatever, have cattle. They're cattle people. And I was going to say, and that over there's the big Umbogo has slipped in there amongst them, but I couldn't get a picture of him again. He's hiding.
So the South Africans call these Dagaboys. Only the big males that are like covered in mud. Daga means mud covered or something like that, and they call the big mature males Dagaboys, and the Swahilis call them Mbogo. Of course, it's a Cape. We call them Cape Buffalo,
and they are a tough and rough critter. If you're ever interested, I know
everything over there is rough and tough.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Everything we dealt with was rough and tough.
Yeah, but most of them aren't out to kill you. These guys are almost like they're out to get you. I mean,
so that very bull, we're driving down one of the 2-track roads in the little safari vehicle one day, and my AMO was driving the truck, and they drive on the wrong side of the road, and the steering wheel's on the wrong side over there. And he's driving along, and that bull's bedded under some scrub in the shade, and my ammo stopped so we could see him. And Lujan and Terry Creekmore and I were in the bed of the truck in the bench seats. And Shauna and Miami were in the cab. And Shauna couldn't see him very good. And she asked Miami if he would take a photo. And she just meant like take my phone and put it out the window and take a picture. And every one of those guys had smartphones. all the trackers and everybody had a cool phone, and so he knew how to use it, and he just like opened the door and said something to Lujan in Afrikaans, and just took off walking over to that bull, and he was bedded down. And Terry was like, "Oh, get your phone ready. Let's put it on video. We're going to get to see Miami get run over by this buffalo."
Which was not what Shauna had in mind at all.
No, she didn't want. She just wanted him to just take a picture out the window, and he just went walking over there, and that bull got up, and it's like, okay, what's going to happen now? And he got up, but he turned and walked away instead of coming at us. So anyway,
that's pretty cool. But they're not a critter to be tangled with.
No.
I mean, look at that look in his face right there. He's looking right at the camera. And look at those eyes. If those eyes don't say, "What the hell are you doing here?" And if you don't get away from here, I'm going to make mud out of you. I've never seen a set that does.
So the famous sports or hunting writer Robert Rourke, said that they stare into your soul, and they always look at you like you owe them money.
If the bull stood up and said, "Get my good side," yeah, he would have said that on his way to get you. Okay, let's get the next one here. And here we got, I think we discussed.
They got teeth this long. Red Button said that. Where'd you go? Now Tim's having internet problems. He's all froze up. I don't know if anybody can hear anything. Sorry, you got to look at me. But where did Tim go?
Why don't you come dish it up and I'll come with you.
Quick as I can, Brenda. Tim needs coffee. Boudreaux. Hateful little dog. Hey, John. Yeah, but we can't see him. They can see me and hear me, buddy. But not you, nor the program. He's just growly at everybody, Tina. He only likes me and my wife, that's it. And everybody else he growls at. It's the dachshund in him.
I'm back.
Hey, there
That
you
was-
are.
that
There
was-
you is.
I had a huge crash there. I'm not sure what happened, guys. Sorry about that. Let me get things set back up here and I'll get back in town like I should be. I don't know what happened there. That was wild. That's the biggest. That might be one of the biggest dumps I've ever had. Okay. Now I gotta get.
And we were still on, still live. You just weren't there.
Well, you were. So you were still
I was
talking.
still on, but the slideshow and yourself disappeared.
It had to be my computer then, or my internet out here. But I just checked my internet connection. It seems to be good, but it might have dropped off and then came back. If that happened, it's the first time since I got this new system. All right, let me catch up on the pages here. There, we were going to talk about, unless you already did. You're muted.
We were right there. And
Okay.
my wife just brought me this.
Oh my goodness.
She's a lovely woman. She just
you've got company when you get good breakfasts handed to you.
She brought me some bacon and eggs and toast, and so I'm going to eat a little bacon right in front of you. Uh-oh. Well, Boudreaux, you got that piece.
Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to talk. You may have already talked about these monkeys. If you have, where did I go? There.
You're there.
Well, I know, but I hit the button and jumped up about 5 slides or something.
Oh,
It'd have been the internet because Mark was still. I don't know what it was. It had to be my computer then. Well, he was still on though. That really doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Anyway, I got to fix that there. I don't get it so slow I can't even move it. I was trying to do that. So I think we talked a little bit last week about monkeys with teeth. And you guys can get a good look at the little vervet monkeys here, which are not that small, but compared to baboons and things like that, they're small. But look at those twofers.
I think they're probably, when they stand up like that, they're probably 2.5 feet tall or so. The males are anyway.
They and I was just looking, besides those big long lower incisors, I can't remember what you call those teeth on an animal. He's got 2 more sharp ones right behind it.
Well, those canines that he's got, eye teeth in humans, are long and impressive.
Yes, they are.
If one of them bit you, you'd know you'd been bitten. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, you're not kidding there. Did they ever get? They're not the kind of monkeys that hang around camp and look for handouts and get food, are they? Steal stuff from your table?
We didn't have any of them doing that. I don't know that other folks don't.
I'm thinking. Well, there's another species. I'm trying to think of.
There's people in Botswana and things that have them that are, they're basically, they hang around about their houses and they're pretty big pests.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But that's exactly what they're thinking about us being there.
True.
But you can see them. They're not little they're not tiny animals. There's an impala ram up there on that pond bank, and he's 130-pound animal, and so they're not tiny or anything.
Yeah, they're all muscle too.
And when they showed up, it'd be a big troop of them.
Yeah, well, that's what the other thing I was going to say was they're past, partially because usually they're in big groups. And
yeah, we would see, 20 or 30 of them at a time. Generally. Sorry for eating noises.
Sorry, no, keep eating. You're just making me hungry.
But I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat.
And here we got a couple of different subspecies of same animals, wildebeest.
Yeah, so that's the same exact species. And that's a blue wildebeest, and they call the one on the right a gold wildebeest, and they're just a color phase. They're not even a subspecies. And they were all from originally from Botswana. They occurred in the wild in Botswana. And of course, they've moved critters all around, and people wanted, hey, I want some of them golden ones too. And, they moved them around over the years, 50 years ago or whatever. And that gold color phase is it's just like a chocolate lab and a yellow lab. They occur all throughout southern Africa now.
Do all of them? Wildebeest are famous for their great migrations.
Yeah, they don't do that in southern Africa.
These guys don't.
No, it's the same exact species that in Kenya and Tanzania that make the big migrations in the Masai Mara and all that country. It's the same exact species, but they're not migratory. Just like mule deer, some mule deer herds are migratory and some aren't. It's here in the U.S.
Yeah,
they're like that. They don't migrate in southern Africa.
Okay. And I've always kind of associated some of those migrations with the just had it in my head. What's the big river in the swamp up there that gets wet once or twice a year? And
Okavango.
Yeah.
In Botswana.
Yeah, I've always kind of.
That's not where it happens. It happens.
That's not okay.
It happens on the Nile, up in Kenya.
Oh.
That's where the crocs are waiting for them in the river.
Anyway, that's two different things of the same thing. It's like black bears, and we've talked about. We got black bears, and then we got your white bears, and then we got your brown bears. They're all black bears. We got black bear species of different colors, and it's basically the same thing here. Except black bear, you can have a cinnamon brown black bear standing right beside a cold jet black bear in the same place. Naturally, these guys originally were kind of different areas, right?
Yeah, I've seen blonde black bears and cinnamon black bears and black bears in the same litter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
Not
mean
illegal.
they just for whatever reason they were more isolated. That this color phase only kind of occurred in Botswana historically, but now they're all over the place. Pretty common antelope, and it's an antelope,
Yeah, another big antelope.
which is weird.
How do they? What's the biggest antelope? The eland? No, is it okay? How do these guys rank in size to that? Well, obviously smaller, but not much smaller, are they?
They're about the size of a really big buck mule deer or a
That's
yeah,
right, Tina.
like a big buck mule deer or a small cow elk.
Kind of like
Yeah,
Labrador retriever.
that's what I was talking about, Tina. You get chocolate labs and yellow labs,
And
Labradors,
black labs.
and black labs. Now they make silver lab.
Is that's not natural though, is it?
I don't know how they built them, but they have them now.
That's 4 minutes off. I'm going to have to adjust that clock a little bit. Okay. And here we got. I think we got that one on the left might still be a golden, but the one on the right, I
that's
think
the same animal.
same animal.
Yep.
Both pictures.
Yeah,
Just
that's the same.
just
That's the
different.
same critter.
Okay, just the lights hitting him different.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I always thought they were they've got that beard. They've always got that bearded appearance from the front.
The weird thing about all these antelope, I mean, they're in the same order of animals that those dikers are in. And then these guys got that big long horse tail and those weird horns that they have, and elands are giant. They're way bigger than a bull elk, way bigger than a bull, almost the size of a moose, maybe equally the size of a moose. So you go from the little dicks that live up in Kenya that are about the size of a cottontail all the way up to an eland. And they're all antelope, true antelope. We don't have antelope over here. People call them antelope, but they're not.
This picture on the right I like because one big eyes. I guess he's looking at you guys. I love how that water draining out of his mouth and his beard down and drops down in front of him there.
Yeah, he was at that water hole there, and we were sitting in the blind, and he just looked right in the. We were shooting photos out of the shooting loop basically, and he knew something was up.
How far away was he?
The other one there is the first one we ever saw, and he came walking in, and I was like, "What in the world is that?" Because I didn't even know they came in that color phase. I knew it was a wildebeest, or a gnu, as they used to call them.
Yeah.
But he came walking in. He looks like he's staring at us, but he wasn't. He was just random shot. But
hang on, Matt. You just sparked a thought, and I'm trying to get it back before I leave.
that's the same little water hole that the vervet monkeys were always hanging out at.
Saw something interesting on the Olympics last night that I was going to ask you about. Change the subject here just for a minute, because if I don't, I might not see Mark.
That gal is like lightning.
Which one?
Well, Got an American gal that's running track and field. She's
Oh,
like,
she is like lightning.
she's
I-
like, she's like, she could run with the antelope. she is fast.
Yeah, she's fast. What I was going to tell you was I was watching some of the dressage, not dressage, but the horse jumping, and 2 or 3 of the riders.
Where
And
did
they
you see that?
Well,
We didn't get that.
probably on. Well, Brendan and I watched it, maybe, but it might have been on Peacock, so you may not have seen it.
No.
But anyway, they were discussing the fact that several of those jumpers are using hackamores instead of bitted, which I thought was
good.
interesting. And I told Brendan, I said, that's what Mark uses. Well, not the same thing exactly, but I mean, these were not made like you make yours, but they were similar. But they were hackamores, no bits. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Because I always thought that for that kind of work, they used bits primarily. So this might be something new they're working on, but obviously they were working because I think they won or got a medal anyway. The group, there was 3 of them, and they were all using hackamores. And I thought that was cool. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean, you're driving your horse with your feet and legs and body position as much as you use a headstall and a hackamore or a bit or whatever. I mean, the old Spanish vaqueros, the really good cowboys, they felt like their horse was finished when they could tie a cigarette bag string between their bit and their rein, which that string is like, I don't know what diameter. It's fine and it's easy to break. And when you could work your horse perfectly with that setup, you were like, you'd made it.
Jedi Master.
Your horse had made it and you had made it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway.
And this guy is part of Mr. Pumbaa, but I have a question about this guy.
That's just a youngin'.
Right, but there's older ones behind it, which at first I thought were rocks, but you can see them there. This one right here, and over here.
There's an adult, and that's just a juvenile right there.
But what I had a question about was I noticed on Stanley's website, they talk about, or they list, they don't say warthogs, they talk about brush.
Oh, that's a different species, bush pigs.
Bush pig, yeah.
That's
what they're talking about. Okay.
That's a totally different critter.
I just wondered if they call these guys that because I didn't see that.
No, these are warthogs, and that's what they call them. And the bush pigs are a different species, and that's what they call them. So, and they live down
there's Diana. Good morning, Diana. Welcome in.
They live in in that jungly stuff. Those bush pigs do.
Ah, so are they more like a wild boar type pig, or are they more like this?
Well, I mean, they just look like themselves. I guess I think they look closer to, well, they're probably more closely related to warthogs. They look sort of warthog-like, but they're just a different critter. It's like the difference between a white-tailed deer and a mule deer.
Did you see any of them?
No, and I hunted in their country a little bit, and when I was hunting bush bucks, and we just didn't see any. I'm sure I saw sign of them, but not the critter itself. So
I threw this in there, and it was on the front page, or these 2 guys are on the front page talking about being cousins. And this is a Hyrox. Hydrox or Hyrox?
Hyrox.
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 Hydrox is a
It's Hyrax.
Hyrax, excuse me. And they are one of maybe its closest relative is actually an elephant, believe it or not. And they're talking about an animal critter that's
Yeah, they're this big,
yeah.
and they look they look superficially like a rodent or a rabbit or a rodent, but they're not.
Which is what I thought they were
They're
originally.
not related to them at all.
Yeah.
Their closest relatives are elephants and this is going to be weird, and sea cows.
The manatee?
Yeah, a dugong.
The dugong. That's a mixed up critter. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to get into the science of how they're made and all their body parts and how their bone structure is and how different parts of them work to get those connections. But that's how that all works.
And the fossil record, and
Right.
who the common ancestor was, and yeah, it's a weird deal, and they're more closely related to African elephants than Asian elephants.
Tina, that's what I was hinting at there. It's a good, very good question because they I'm sure they do DNA too now, but this identification started a
Yeah,
long
way
time
before this, they
when they were doing, like Mark said, fossil
fossil
records,
record.
bone structure, and things that were they could see under maybe a microscope or in their hand. And when they started putting stuff in blenders and checking DNA, then they found out a lot of things about that. Caused a real sea change in a way of how they identified some critters and how they figured out who they're related to. I mean, their whole species that
But it
we
was
thought,
amazing how much those
yeah,
those old bone doctors were looking at bones, at bones that are rock now,
yeah,
um, and they were getting it right.
yeah, and they did. And I think probably one of the places that shows up best, and I don't know if we've talked about it or not, but in the fish world, like creek minnows, and things like that. I mean, those guys and the people who do names for things like that, once they got to where they could look at stuff at that level, they've just gone nuts with renaming things and
Yeah,
splitting subspecies out. I mean,
aggravating.
it's
It's
crazy.
just aggravating.
It is aggravating, and names change every year in books, and it's kind of silly. I mean, honestly, and there are taxonomists.
And it's
Who are
worse
people,
in plants than it is in
yeah.
animals. Like
Well, I'm sure that's
half of the
true.
grasses that I learned through 3 different colleges,
No
they don't
longer
have that
exist.
name anymore.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I think some of that goes a little too far sometimes.
Splitters and
Some more
lumpers,
pictures
man.
of them.
Splitters and lumpers.
Splitters and lumpers, yeah. The rock hyrax. And
Yeah, so we saw 2 of those. And the ones we saw might have been tree hyrax, which are closely related to the rock version. They were by rocks, but they were in a tree.
that makes it simple. I
And
love the foot. I guess that's the rock then, the
and
foot.
I asked Lujan, I'm like, are those tree hyraxes or rock hyraxes? And he goes, I have no idea. They're hyraxes. But there's legitimately those 2 species. And
Something I don't see on this foot up here are claws. Do they not have any claws?
I think they had claws, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I just got to looking. The
He
guy
sure doesn't look like he's got claws, which
no, he doesn't. And look at the one over here on the left where he's standing up, kind of like a groundhog. He's got those paws laying
and
on that.
their feet are like elephant feet almost.
Yeah, that's why I put that footprint in there. They're made more like the bottom of an elephant foot. But this guy that's over here on this log, he's got his front paws on that log, and I don't see any claws on him. Now they may be under there. Maybe they got like fingernails.
But they can climb up a tree. I know that.
And here they got their little, this is their tusks. Well, there's some up in a tree. I don't know if you took that picture or if that's one I found.
I took that photo, and it was the worst photo I've ever taken. But
so probably by Lujan's.
I wanted to get out and sneak under the tree and take a photo. And there was a dead zebra laying about, I don't know, 50 yards away. And Lujan said, maybe we shouldn't get out here.
Yeah, I bet not.
Because there was a dead zebra laying right over there, that fresh killed dead zebra. And he's like, maybe we better not get out at this location. So we didn't.
I'm thinking about Lujan's species identification. What we got here is you got your tree hyrax and you got your rock hyrax.
He didn't. He's just like, I don't know. They're hyraxes.
And here we got their cousins.
Yeah.
And you saw this is one of your pictures, or Sean, is it? You saw these guys.
That was the coolest thing ever, dude.
You made a comment, I think, on Facebook somewhere. You posted a picture, or maybe you sent it to me. But
it was a video.
Yeah, but you were talking about, and you said something about it's this ain't store-bought.
I said, take that, National Geographic.
Yeah.
And then that those aren't your store-bought elephants. Those are real wild elephants. Yeah, I kept like sneaking closer and closer to them and taking photos. And Lujan was finally like, okay, dude, you're close enough. You've gotten close enough. Because it was there was 45 of them, and it was cows and calves.
Which you don't want to mess with.
I don't think we saw a bull in that group. That big broken tusk one was a bull, and he didn't like us taking his photograph. He was kind of surly.
I got to stop for a minute and read this thing that Diana put up here. She said, Mike's out helping a buddy, and I was busy dealing with Walter, who's distraught because his boyfriend is out. So I assume his boyfriend is Mike. Is that what we're saying here, Diana?
Huh.
I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to ask him about that. And I'll manage to word it to Mike offline in a way that's probably going to make him, he'll have something to say about it.
Tina, are you referring to the shy being the bull that didn't like us taking his photo? He wasn't shy. He was just didn't want us anywhere. We were way too close to him. We were only like 10 yards from him.
Well, I think I've got another.
And he didn't like us being right. That's him right there.
That's him right there.
And just after that photo right there, he turned and looked at us, and he put his ears straight out, and he shook his big old ginormous head, and
Which
like
is time to leave.
He didn't trumpet, but Lujan was like, "We're not in my pickup. We're in Stanley's pickup. We need to go somewhere else."
And we need to do it right now. Hang on just a minute, guys. I'm going to turn you off for a minute. I got to do something. But
Walter is 100% smitten with Mike.
Oh. Holy.
That's the way dogs are, though.
That's true. That's true.
Most of them pick a human.
Yeah. Now,
Boudreaux has picked both myself and my wife, but that's it. He don't like anybody.
Yeah,
else.
He doesn't do much with Caitlin, does he? I got to move a minute. I'll be right back. You may hear me cussing or stumbling, but that means I'm still in the area. I got to get up and do something. I got to stretch for a minute. Oh, but those tusks, Mark, those are broken. They're not cut off for protection or anything. They're broken.
Yeah, I mean, he's never been handled by a human being. He's a wild elephant. He broke both those tusks off, doing whatever elephants do with their tusks, fighting or breaking tree limbs or whatever. He was definitely an old man, and that's the elephant that we were driving along looking for elephants, closer, elephants that we could see fairly close up, and nobody was at any of the water holes. And we turned the corner and we left the river bottom and started driving up into the hills. And there's two wildlife biologists and a professional hunter in the truck and my wife. And we're like, wonder where all the elephants are today. And my wife's like, she's like, well, right there's an elephant. And she said it kind of like that. And he was literally like 10 yards away, and we'd been looking up in the hills. And she goes, well, right there's an elephant.
And we leave it to the amateurs.
The three wildlife guys, professionals, didn't even see him.
Missed them all together. That's that's one of those. You can leave it to the amateurs to always, make the professionals look bad. Not intentionally, but just, like you said, oh, well, there's an elephant.
Well, and they sculpt that whole landscape. Every plant there, not every plant, but most of the plants there, they eat. And they have, since all eternity have sculpted that landscape, and they have a pretty big impact on plants, and it's cool. I mean, it's cool to see.
I heard a neat saying about that, and you just said something made me think, and I've heard it several times lately because I've gone to sleep watching this show. That's kind of like he's saying. So, I mean, they've been doing this on this landscape since forever until now.
Yeah.
A long time.
A long time.
So this guy, you think you were within 10 yards or so? Did you say 10 yards?
Yeah, we were about 10 yards away from him.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, it was just off the road. And Shauna saw him, and then we backed up to where we could get a good look at him and get some photos. And we stayed there just to the point where he was like, okay, I'm tired of you guys taking my photograph.
You need to move along.
You need to go on. And I mean, he literally just turned, and I did not take a photo then, which is too bad because it was that typical bull elephant looking at you, and
like you see in movies.
And my wife was talking about she was taking a video of him. And Lujan and Crickmore and I were all talking about how well endowed he was through the video. So she was going to get it for the grandbabies, and now she can't even use it.
It needs to be edited. Well, if I learn how to edit it out, I'll let you know, and she can send it. I'll do it. I got the software for it. I just haven't sat down and learned how to use it yet. Tina says
that was one of the coolest things that I've ever seen was that big guy right there. We didn't see any elephants. We saw two great big bulls with big tusks up on when we first got onto this park. we first got in there, we're driving along, and I'm like, oh my God, there's bull elephants. And there was 2 of them, but they were like 200 yards from the truck. And I took some shots of them, but because they're the first wild elephants I'd ever seen.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome in. We're talking about elephants right now.
But this was the one that we got, like, I mean, we were right on top of him.
I mean, I'm guessing that at this point, this guy looks huge.
Oh, he's enormous.
Wait a minute. She says, what? Tina says, what? You don't talk that way about horses and such in front of them? Probably. Would it really be such a shock to them? Maybe not, but we'll have to get Sean in here to talk about that.
I mean, when you've been dreaming about elephants since you were a little tiny kid, about seeing wild elephants, that was pretty special. But anyway.
So anyway, that was that big guy. I don't know if I've got any more of them or not. And you saw these guys. These guys got pretty up close and personal at times, didn't they? I mean, maybe not these exact ones, but I mean,
giraffe. Oh, I have photos of my wife, like in the blind. You know, I was shooting out the window of the blind, and my wife's standing there, and there are literally giraffes within 5 feet of her.
Wow.
Their big old legs and things. You can't see the whole giraffe, but you see her and the legs and the tail hanging down.
Well, you or she won. I've seen a video. I don't know if you posted it online, but maybe you shared it with me. But she's got a little short video where you actually have one that comes into a water hole, and you can kind of see it spreading its legs out and getting down.
Yeah, I took most of those shots with her camera because it's way better than mine. And
just for the record, these are all phone shots.
Yeah, this is all that. That's her phone,
which is an iPhone, I believe, isn't it?
It is.
So that's an iPhone camera for what?
So it was. So she and Terry both bought a new phone just for this trip, and got like the latest and greatest iPhone that had the best camera.
Yeah.
And they're good. I mean, I got that old Android that I've been packing for years now, and it doesn't take very good photos.
The newer Androids have got some really good cameras in them too. I mean,
but then my daughter's using a newer Android, and it takes good photos too, as you know.
Well, I was going to say most of the people in here, not you, but most of the other people in here know who I'm talking about when I talk about Resort TV One, and the guy that does that's been doing it now for quite many years with phones, and he still thinks that the Samsung phones, which are Androids, have probably the best quality video, and there are other people who think the iPhone does. So I mean, they're all pretty damn good and close now, I'd say.
Yeah, that shot on the right there, that's a video. That's him.
Let me see if it'll play.
It just looks like it hurts when they drink.
Oh. How far is that water hole tank from you guys?
5 yards.
Look how his knees bend, the front knees. Which I guess is not, that's right, the way horses do too. But it just looks awkward. I would think that would be probably a giraffe's most vulnerable moment, because he has to get all stretched out there and lean down and be bent over to get to the water. And I don't know that anything attacks a full-grown giraffe, but that would be when I'd go after one if I was going to try to catch him and eat him or something.
Yeah, I think that's a big old bull there. I think they're pretty much impervious to harm from big cats or whatever, but
Yeah, I think
the young ones are certainly prey.
Right, that's what I was going to add. The young ones are prey for sure, but these big guys can probably both outrun and pretty much hold their own with about anything that's out there. I just played that again, just for the heck of it.
But I mean, they would come in a herd, and there'd be a dozen of them. You know.
Yeah.
This was just a group of big males that came in. There was 4 or 5 of them, and the weird thing about them is that spotted pattern. I mean, you could be sitting there, and all of a sudden there's a giraffe, like right there.
Camouflage is real.
You didn't see it coming until it was there.
Yeah. Nature's camouflage is amazing. I mean, just like an elephant. An elephant's a solid color, no stripes, no polka dots, and yet he can stand there, or they can stand there in the edge of some trees or some, and that gray. I think that has a lot to do with that color. Gray just blends, and in the woods, we've talked about that for years. And I mean, they just disappear. I mean, and then suddenly you see them, and there they are.
A lot of that country we saw wild elephants in there were big gray rocks everywhere. Great big gray colors. It was the exact same color as the elephants. And if you didn't see them moving, if they were just standing up in those rocks, you just wouldn't see them. I mean, they just look like another big gray rock. You know, you had to see movement.
We're moving back on to antelope. So we got 2 different species standing here, Mark. Why don't you tell us what's what? And
we got 3 different species.
Well, counting the guineas.
So we got helmeted guinea fowl standing around that ram impala. Beautiful animal. Fat lightning speed animal. And then that animal on the right is a water buck, they're just so cool. And they're a lot big. They're big as an elk, and the impala are about the size of a white-tailed deer.
Yeah.
And little different shape than a white-tailed deer, but about that same weight.
And they're all
water buck, like I said, the water buck's about the size of a bull elk.
And all these antelopes, from the little bitty dockers up to these guys and above, are all antelope.
They're all antelope.
We're going to talk. And we may have already seen this photo on the right. I think I used it earlier identifying
Miami.
Yeah. But the one on the left, you told me about this yourself, and I think you caught Lujan by surprise here.
So I shot that ram with and I don't even like admitting this, but I shot that ram with my bow the evening before, just before dark, and we couldn't find him. And it ended up I just wounded him, and I shot him with the rifle the next morning. And but we got him collected, and that's me and Lujan and Lujan's blood trailing dog, which was one of the few blue tick coon hounds in the entire continent of Africa, literally. And
that's what they use.
And I'm like the Tennessee boy that showed, like the hill boy from Tennessee that ran behind coon dogs for most of my childhood. And I get over there and I'm like, great, I'm hunting with a coon dog.
Well, you felt it on.
Which he's only used for blood trailing if you lose an animal and it's tricky. Anyway, got him collected up, and they were taking a photo of us, and I just reached over and gave him the big old kiss on the cheek. And it freaked him out.
Bring him up. Too bad you can't
I
see
think
all
he
that.
said something about bloody Americans. I was laughing. I think he said bloody Americans.
I wish you had that reaction. I wish that was a video. And these are still somewhat. The one on the left, of course, is the same rifle and the ram that Mark shot.
That's a different ram, but
yeah, different ram.
And then
that?
There's Terry with his beautiful big old 45-inch buffalo.
Yeah, and that's Terry Creekmore on Mark's left, our right, and of course Mark behind there.
Look the size of that thing.
I know. I'm just looking at those horns. I mean, those horns look like you could put a couple kids on there and just swing them.
Well, you could. Terry got me to like hold after they had cleaned the skull off. He's like, pick that up so I can get a photo of you holding my buffalo. And I picked it up, and it was like, good God Almighty! And I told Lujan, I'm like, get over here and grab the other horn. So we held it up together, but it was, I mean, just the horn and the bone probably weighed 120 pounds. It was ridiculous.
And that was just the bone. Of course, it wasn't dried out, but it would still be heavy.
Yeah, and the boys, the guys had cleaned it off. I mean, they took every scrap of meat off every one of these animals, and some of it we ate, and most of it went to the skinners and the tracker guys. And every scrap of meat off those animals they used, and they took the cheeks off that bull and turned it into biltong, into jerky. And they'd take those big cheek muscles, which are like this big, and spiral cut them. And they'd end up with like a 20-foot strip of meat that was still connected. And they'd cut it into parcels about that big and just hang it over a line, spice it up and hang it over a line and dry it in the sun. And they ate that year round. Very impressive use. You know, if you're going to harvest an animal, you should
use as much
put it to use. And they use every bit of it. Stomachs, intestines, everything.
Which is important to say because a lot of people have this opinion that hunters just, especially African hunters, I think this is because of the days of
it's from the old safari days.
One, hunting, and I was going to save this for later, but let's talk about it in a minute. One, hunting is one of the few ways that one of the main ways they use for conservation on most of these animals and control populations, which if they didn't control, the thing people forget about when they say, oh, you shouldn't shoot any is once mankind moves into these areas and sets up farms and areas, I mean, you immediately come in conflict with the animals that live there. And ultimately, you're going to have to keep, some numbers are going to have to equal out on both sides or one side, or you're going to have chaos. And it leads to bad other problems besides just human interaction. I mean, disease and things that naturally would have occurred but don't anymore because of maybe predator loss or other reasons. But I mean, it is a major conservation tool. And if it's used correctly, I think it's valid and useful. And
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, those people, all those people that were employed by Stanley,
yeah,
all the trackers, all the skinners, all their families, their wives and children, and that's their sole source of protein is what they, what gets harvested there. And they get plenty of meat, but that's the only way they get it.
yeah.
They can't run down to the grocery store and pick up some steaks or whatever. This is where they get it. And Terry and I went out and shot some guinea fowl. They loved those. That gentleman named Mechanic, he loved guinea. He was like, "Oh yeah, go get me plenty of those."
Did you try the guinea? I've never eaten a guinea.
We gave them all to him. All the guineas we gave to Mechanic and maybe to So, and we gave we shot a few sand grouse and we gave those to my Amo really liked those and he ended up with those birds. So, but yeah, it was and they feed, and all of them have fairly large families, and it's much appreciated.
Tina's got a couple of points here, and I'm going to bring them up because they're valid. She's talking about even back in the big safari days when they took away their trophies, the native people probably harvested meat, and that's true, Tina. They did.
They did.
But there were also times, and this is what gave a lot of hunters and a lot of other people a really bad name, when some of those guys went over there and just harvested bunches of animals, and because there was no regulation on any of it, and people think that's what hunters do all the time because of some of those and some of those stories, and that's not really true. Unfortunately,
it's never true. It does not occur.
Right.
It happened in the past.
Right.
It happened here in the past on a giant scale, but it didn't. It doesn't happen anymore.
Unfortunately, some of these critters, and I'm going to say this at the risk of hurting anybody's feelings, but they still have to cull, which means they do shoot elephants. The government does, because of their interactions with humans. I mean, elephant populations can get really big. They're protected, and I think they should be. Don't get me wrong, for the most part, but they are harvested in such a way that in some cases it is wasted. Now they try to do something to let natives have that meat, and in one, I guess it was South Africa. I don't remember what country back in the day. It might have been Rhodesia, or I can't remember what the name of the other country was back then. But one of those places, Carmichael, no, it was Capstick hunted and was a professional hunter and worked as a game.
Botswana. He was in Botswana.
And the government there actually set up a factory setup just to harvest all the meat,
process the meat
off of elephants, and but they were having to shoot so many a year, and that was so bad that the hunters true hunters don't want to do that either. That's not fun. Nobody thinks that's fun if you're normal. And Mark's had to shoot animals in similar way, not for that reason, but in similar ways. They were wounded or hit by a car. I mean, it's just, you feel bad. I mean, I do. And if you had to sit out there and do it day after day for a month or something to get populations down in some other fashion, it'd get very old. And unfortunately, that's the kind of thing that does get shown in a lot of documentaries, or when they talk about it, over harvesting and stuff. Sometimes that's what they're showing, and that's not exactly true. But maybe that's another topic for another day. But
Yeah, it's another topic for another day.
Yeah, I mean it. So we'll move on. But anyway, that's it. It happens, and someone made a highlight reel. Oh, yeah, I put this in there. This actually came off of.
That's Terry and
That's
Lynn.
Terry, and this was. Is that laying under my desk, or did you send me this?
I sent you that. I
Yeah,
just
'cause
wanted
that's
to send you a picture of an Inyala bull.
yeah. Oh yeah. But this made Stanley's Facebook page or his website page, and that's Terry in the middle and Terry's wife, or is that? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Terry's
Terry's
wife,
wife, Lynn.
and that's Stanley beside them, right on the left, on their left, our right.
Correct. That was the first animal. So that was last year, and that was the first.
Okay.
That was the first animal that Terry harvested in Africa, and he didn't go over there to hunt Inyala. He had a list of critters, that were more reasonably priced.
Yeah, and that's another thing too.
And that guy walked in like the very first morning of their hunt, and Terry looked at Lynn and said, "Can I have an Inyala?" Because over there you don't get a license to hunt; you pay for the animal.
Yeah,
it's different than the North American system. So he looked at Lynn and she goes, "I don't know," and he shot him.
well, some of these animals might cost you $1,000 to hunt, and some might cost.
That's a $2,500 animal right there.
And some of them are 12,000 to 15,000. I mean,
well, that bull
you
buffalo
don't go over there and just hunt for nothing.
That bull buffalo was 12,000. But Crickmore's been saving since he was a pup in the Air Force for this his whole life, and his wife is a fairly well-to-do veterinarian, and so
yeah,
because I know what he made, and he as a wildlife professional, and it wasn't that much.
Yeah, it's not really the career you want to go into if you want to be rich,
right?
And I don't know if that's the same ram. That's a different ram, isn't it? Or is that the same one? You killed this one with your bow.
That's my archery ram right there.
Yeah, it's your archery ram here. Mark, I'll tell you something. Oh, man, it's raining. Mark's an excellent shot with a bow, and I'm just going to brag on him. I've seen him shoot everything from certs out, or, sour, sweet tarts out of the air to pieces of foam or a rope. And he's a really good shot with his bow. And these guys, I would have to say, buffaloed you, for lack of a better. I mean, these guys really.
I missed 4 in a row.
Huh?
I missed 4 in a row, and they were right.
They were that fast.
They were 10 yards from me or less, and they were so fast. They did something that us archers would call jumping the string, only they don't jump the string. They actually duck underneath the arrow, and they were so lightning fast. I couldn't believe they could get out of the way like that.
And you've shot whitetail deer.
And so I've killed lots of deer and other things. And I was like, how come I can't figure these things out? Just like, and I started like playing mind games with myself, and okay, I'm going to aim way down there because he's going to drop down underneath the string and be gone. And then I had one that was like 7 yards away, and I shot at him, and I held low so that when he dodged, I'd hit him in the right spot, and he didn't even twitch. So I shot right under him.
Okay, Tina says, wow, so you pay once you've got it, or you pay then they bring you to an area where they. No, you pay for it. Well, you tell them what you want. And will take you to an area, but you pay for them. I think at the end of the hunt, right? They
Right. So
bring up your bill.
but if you wound one and
You
don't
buy it
collect
too.
it, you still bought it.
Yeah.
If you draw blood, you bought the animal. So it's a whole different system than how they would do it in the United States.
Yeah, Tina, that's kind of what Mark and I talked about. These animals are all still preyed on much more heavily than say animals here, because we don't have the predators still in our environments that they do over there. These guys are dodging leopards and lions and cheetahs probably and that sort of thing. So they're probably more hyped up and ready to jump. So they're a lot quicker. And we don't have
and just tough.
And we don't have a whole lot of time. We've seen that picture. This bird over here, I don't think we've seen this big guy, but this is I don't know, we probably talked about it. This is the largest flying bird in the world.
Yeah, the males can get up to 40 pounds.
And you're pretty sure he's looking up there because there's
No, I'm not pretty sure. I saw him do it.
Well, yeah, but you can't see it there. But when you saw him,
right up there that bird's looking up in that tree. That's about 10 yards from the blind I was sitting in, and he's staring at that broken limb above his head. That spot where a limb would have come out was kind of a little bench sitting there, right there. And he was staring at that intently, and I didn't know what the heck the bird was. I'm like, what in the world is that, Lujan? And he's like, that's a Cory bustard.
Cory bustard.
Kori, second word, bustard.
Bustred.
Yeah.
ERD, I think.
ARD. Anyway, he was staring at that spot, and he just like hopped up there and he snatched a little snake off that broken limb. That was probably a juvenile black mamba, based on the coloration of it. And that's the only snake I was hopeful to see some snakes, maybe a Mozambique spitting cobra or something cool like that. That's the only snake we saw the whole time we were over there. But
you got to see him was going down this thing's gullet, basically.
He grabbed that snake by the head and just swallowed him like a piece of spaghetti.
Let's see where I'm at here. Yeah, Tina, that'd be another long topic. I'm going to try to get through the slides, but yes, they do. They go after them until they're absolutely sure they cannot find them. And these guys that were doing the tracking over there and with the dog, I mean, they put every effort into finding anything. Interesting thing about that, and we might have talked about it, but these animals are tough. I mean, it's almost like they're still living in such an environment. Again, they got the adrenaline, they're faster, they're watching more, and they're tougher. Mark shot a buck or ram, whatever, and the arrow actually did hit him, and it went up along his throat, neck, and did some damage. But the next day or 2 days later, you guys harvested that deer or that animal, and he wasn't even acting like there was anything wrong with him at that point.
It was the next morning. Yeah, I shot him the next morning.
He took off, and he quit bleeding, and they couldn't find him. And the next day, somebody said, "Well, there's your ram right there." I keep wanting to say a buck. They don't use that term.
But he was bleeding spots this big, like every 4 yards. A white-tailed deer would have been down in 100 yards, and he just stopped bleeding. Nothing I ever seen before.
Yeah, Tina, we'll talk about that more someday, guys. I would like to talk about that more. But we'll get back to that. Mark's got company, so I don't want to keep him. And this, I just put these pictures in there because, well, you sent them to me, but I just like these pictures. That's Mark's newly made bow that he made just for this trip. And that's an interesting bow because it's a takedown bow. I think we've talked about that before. And I thought I'd throw in your African bird book here, which I couldn't resist. The Birds of South Africa. I just realized there's a sharpening steel too.
Yeah, I'd sit there and sharpen broadheads and watch birds.
And is this from your hut or your?
That's the porch on the hut that we were staying in, and
we'll have to talk about all the birds you saw sometime.
oh, it was just magic.
Yeah, that is a cool bow, Tina, and I can't wait to get mine. I've got one on order already.
Magic. That trip was magic.
So we've got just a few more general pictures here, I think, and that's the big guy right there with the crooked horn, the big twisty horn guy.
That's the most handsome animal in Africa, maybe in the world. That's a greater kudu. And, that's a big bull.
And you can see how they're marked. I mean, these stripes, it's camouflage. And while it doesn't look like anything standing here, when they hit the brush, they just vanish.
They're just gone.
Amazing. I've been amazed. I've been looking at animals in the wild almost as long as or as much as Mark. And I have to admit, my job kept me more in than it was out. His was out mostly. So we had opposite kind of job responsibilities in many ways. But you stand out there and you study them and you watch them and you look at them, and it is absolutely amazing how something like camouflage works. And people put in so much time and effort into camouflage, and yet animals can make it look so simple in their own way. And these are all pictures, correct me, and I'm sure, but these weren't, or at least some of these weren't very far from these were right around the lodge, weren't they? Or nearby?
No, this was on Luhan's parents' property. And this is where I got my first Impala, was at this spot, at this water hole. There's about 40 miles to his parents' place from where we were staying.
Same critter, probably same critter, same location or whatever, but different angles. And
so that's an Inyala. That's an Inyala female, and that's a young kudu bull.
Oh, that one's got a mouthful of grass or something. Mark mentioned this, and I didn't talk about it. He took this picture, I guess, kind of say, "Oh Jesus, we really are in Africa." This was a license plate. I don't know, was that on the back of Luhan's vehicle or somebody else?
No, it was just some random vehicle out at that motel we stayed at by the airport.
What does that say? The plain province? I don't know. I can't read it exactly. And as I put it in the show before, this was my original ending. And it was Castle time. And Castle is a South African beer that apparently is the favorite beer in all of Africa. And after a dusty, hot day of out in the bush, I guess this washes it down pretty good.
It does indeed.
And now I want to throw in some pictures. Caitlin, his daughter, took these, I don't know when, recently. And I thought these were really good photographs for one thing. And to me, this is some of the amazing parts of nature. This is amphibians when they're going from tadpoles to real frogs. And these guys are within, I don't know, days probably of losing that tail that you can see behind that one. These are northern spotted frogs, all of them.
Leopard frogs.
I mean leopard frogs. That's what I meant. I said spotted, but I meant leopard. I promise. And but I just thought these were good pictures. I mean, she's got a couple of really sharp pictures, and this is again, you can see this guy in that big wide tail, and he's getting close to being all grown up, and that's going to go away real quick. This one's sitting on the bottom. Well, I guess these were down at the river, weren't they?
Well, we got a little pond out here in the pasture that those are
okay.
in.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Well, they're in the river too. They're in the river too, but these photos are from that pond.
Well, the water didn't appear to be moving, is what I was getting at in this one or these. So I figured it was a pond or a puddle or something, or a backwash or a backwater from the river. I wasn't sure. Anyway, and I like this one a lot because this looks like it ought to be in National Geographic. This looks like special effects. I mean, this grass or moss or whatever this is at the bottom, and they're laying on it with all these bubbles. I don't think those are eggs. They're not eggs of any kind, are they? Those are just trapped air bubbles. And then you got this guy laying here. I mean, this just almost looks like it's touched up or something. This frog to me, I've seen so many pictures in magazines and things that this reminds me of. I just thought these were great. And I think this might be the last one in the set. But anyway, the tail's shorter on this guy. I don't know if that means somebody bit it off or the end of it broke off or it's starting to go away. But anyway, but you can see it's more adult looking. I'm counting dongs. I'm trying to make sure my clocks are timed right. I hope that's not too loud. Anyway, this frog to me has a little bit more mature look. I mean, I think he's probably a little older than some of those others. Could be wrong. And this bubble right here, on top of everything, here's this frog. And then you got this great bubble that's right here reflecting the sun. And I just thought these were great pictures. Oh, this was the last one. Excuse me. This was a really good one too. I mean, again, this is taken with either a tablet or a cell phone. And look at the detail and the skin on that frog. And the eyes. You always got to look at the eyes. And I realize it's self-focusing, but still, you got to be holding it in the right spot. So that was the end, and I thought I'd do some African sunsets. And, of course, I looked for some. And I found so many that I liked, I just put 3 or 4 in here. So what the heck. But that's the end, and I guess you could say, at least for right now, we're leaving Africa. Who are you waving at? You waving bye or you
waving goodbye?
Okay, well, you guys have fun. Find something out there.
We're going to go get too hot in the sun now.
Okay, well, you go do that.
They're chomping at the bit, so...
All right.
I will see you guys soon. Thanks for bearing with all these photos.
Well, I think we've learned a lot.
It was magic. It was magic photos, though. So.
Yeah. And Mark, when he says that, he means it. Oops, I need to read. I'm still seeing the old pictures there. I need to read up. So anyway. Let me turn that echo box off. So anyway, have fun out there today. Tell Danny we said hi.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.
How long is he staying?
Wednesday.
Okay. All right. When we get a chance to talk, just let me know if it's after he leaves.
All right. I might give you a call this afternoon.
Okay. All right. All right, guys.
All right.
See you, Mark. I'm not going anywhere yet, guys. I'm not signing off, but we're going to tell him bye. As you can probably tell after 3 or 4 episodes of being in Africa, Mark was very enthusiastic about this trip, and it meant a lot to him. And, he's a kid that one of his first chapter books that his dad ever gave him was a Robert Roarick book. It might have been The Old Man and the Boy. And if you've never read it, and I know you're probably not hunters, but it is one of the best books I ever read that really talks about ethics. There's several books out there that made big impacts on me personally about ethics and hunting and various other things, and that book was one of them. And then there's a follow-up to that one called The Boy's Old Man Gets Old, or The Boy Gets Older. I can't remember how it's worded. But then the other one was Aldo Leopold's book, Sand County Almanac. If you've never read that book, some parts of it might bore you to death, but that book has a lot about ethics and why wildlife people like Mark and I have, and more so them, but have a job to do, and why sometimes it looks conflicting with other people's opinions. What a lot of people don't get is just how much respect, and I don't want to use the word love. That's a human term, but how much respect that most 99% of people that are in that business have for the animals. Is Brenda leaving? Everything is beautiful. I'd like to make that trip myself someday. My somedays are getting smaller. Yes, they are. I would like to go too. I told him, I said, if I could ever come up with the money, I'd like to go, if nothing else, to ride around in the truck. I mean, it's just, I'll have to admit that, well, I've thought about it when I was a kid or younger, or when I read books like that. Peter Hathaway Capstick, or Peter Cap. Yes, I'll get it right here in a minute. It's Peter Hathaway Capstick. He was a writer from the 70s and 80s, maybe up to the 90s. He was a professional hunter, but he used to have like a last page story that was 3 pages long every month. I think it was Outdoor Life, or it might have been Field and Stream or something like that. But he always finished up with a story about, Africa or India or a story that, I mean, he was in Africa, but he knew people that hunted India. But very good stories that got me interested in that sort of thing too. But it didn't manifest quite as much as it did Mark. But just to see, I mean, to go to a country that's still pretty wild, in my opinion, would be pretty cool. And we don't get a chance to do that a lot. Anyhow, did Brenda say she was leaving? Oh, yep, she did. There, that's a little better. I had smudges on my glasses. So I hope everybody's got something fun planned for the day. And now that this is over, or now that we're finished up. But don't know what we're going to talk about yet next week. I've got some ideas. I'll have to work on them. And we might go back to history, or we might go, I don't know. I'll figure out something. And I'm the poke bear today because, people say don't poke the bear because you never know what kind of mood he's in. And I've just had a rotten week. I mean, it just seems like I don't know. It just seems like it's been a sucky week for the Tim and Brenda show here in little Rogersville, Tennessee, in our little white houses. But anyway, hopefully we'll get feeling better and we can get that out. This helps. Talking to Mark helps. It gives me somebody to talk about or talk with that, and kind of talk about issues, and then we can get on to something that really changes my whole mental state. Because as we used to say when we were younger and we laughed about it, was, one of us would say to the other one, I knew there was something I wanted to ask you about. And when the common reply to that was, well, was it about hunting or fishing? That's what we did. I appreciate that, Diana. You can ask Brenda. I've been kind of mean. And I think it's just, pain does that to me. I have to admit, I don't like to whine about it, but it is. But the other thing is, I've just been frustrated with my disabilities are keeping me from doing things that I want to do just in this room in this house. I mean, look at my house and my beautiful cabinet back there that I'm trying to put my favorite books in and, you know, and put them on display in a protected area. I broke a glass in it in one of the doors. In fact, the one you see open right there. And we found a place in Knoxville that actually cut me out a new one. And they used the one on the opposite side as the guide, which makes sense, I guess. It worked. And today I was trying to get Teddy's chair out so we could possibly use it. I was hoping Teddy would come visit. You can see his chair sitting right here. Well, I had to dig it out of the corner that was, you know, over in here. And I just couldn't get it out. And what I ended up doing was fooling around trying to get it between things, and I broke my glass again. In fact, I broke both of them. So right now, I'm not even sure what I'm going to use for a pattern. I may end up with a cabinet with no doors to speak, no glass. But somehow I'll figure out a way to get a glass cut again. And, that glass wasn't cheap. That glass cost me $42, I believe, to have cut. So now I guess I'll have an $84 glass cutting bill. I'm doubting, but I'm hoping that they maybe made a pattern of it when they were doing it, but I doubt it. They probably just used the old one, laid it on a new piece of glass, cut the glass. It's got some curves and stuff at the top you can see up there. And if you looked at it from the backside, how it fits in, they're a little bit more curved to it. This looks like it's a simple curve, but it's actually a double curve. Anyway, I hope so, Tina. That's what I'm hoping. But I don't know if they made a template. I told Brenda we're going to have to sit down. We can do a puzzle here and sit down and lay the glass that I have. And I mean, there's, like a big piece and a big piece and then a bunch of little pieces. And maybe we can put it together and make a template, put it in. I used to make templates, so it's not like I don't know how to make one. I just haven't had to do one in a while. But I may have to make my own. And if I do, I'll take the template to them and see if they can't cut me out some glass. Can't find anybody here, so we have to go to Knoxville to get it done. I called all over art galleries and picture frame, all kinds of companies, but nobody cut glass anymore. They just buy squares and, put them on things. So, yes, Diana, we do. I do. And I get frustrated because I was out here yesterday just trying to do some simple things. You can't really tell it, but right behind me on the wall, there used to be a big pegboard. Well, the pegboard is now laying there, against the wall. We're going to take it out and either use it in the garage or put it somewhere else because I want to hang a map there and move my case over a little bit farther so it's center of the room. And that pegboard didn't fit my vision of how I want to do. And it took me about 3 days to get that damn pegboard down, pardon my language. And it had maybe 20 screws in it. I mean, that's something I could have done in 5 minutes if I could have just gotten in there and got to it and done it, and I couldn't. What did Diana say? Try an auto glass place. Oh, I could. They might be able to help me out. That's not bad. That's not a bad idea. But anyway, so it's been kind of a crappy week. And yesterday I was mean and fussy, and I confess. And to Brenda, I apologize again. I can't blame it all on pain. I've always been a bit ornery. But the pain makes it so much worse. And it's just frustrating. Brenda and I both get frustrated because we're trying to work and do things. And we're up here where we don't really have any help now. So in some regards, we got to a place we really liked, but it's fighting us every step of the way. It feels like. We'll see. We'll get there. It's just taking a while. Anyway, I don't know who all's left. Maybe not many people, but if you're here, thank you for being here. Thanks for coming in. I hope you enjoyed the final day of Into and Out of Africa. Not that we might not ever talk about it again, because I see a topic there. Yeah, Kay, unfortunately, when I get grumpy, and then sometimes I take it to the next level. Now, I'm not a thrower or a hitter or that kind of grumpy mean. I just get hard to be with, I'm sure, at times. But anyway, well, thanks, Kelly. I didn't really know if you were still in here. I don't know who I missed today. I apologize if there's anybody here that I didn't. Maybe you should hire an organizer to help you for a day. That's a good point, Diana, and we've talked about that. It's just we don't know anybody up here to hire, to be honest. That's the way of life, Timson. If life were easy, we'd find something else to be. Yeah, we would. Yeah, that's probably true too, Kelly. And I appreciate the thought, and I know where you're coming from and what you're going at. I don't like to be that way. I kind of grew up. My dad was a little bit like that, I guess. And Brenda says I've always been a bit loud. Of course, I can't hear. When I'm talking normal to me, she says I'm talking really loud to her. That's probably why my microphone is sitting 4 feet away from me, but apparently you guys hear me okay. Yeah, I know about Angie, Tina. I might check that out. That's probably a good idea. I've got a couple of kids that do art, that are artistic and decorative. They do decorative things for other people. I'm trying to get them to help me, kind of help me with the vision I have of this room, this building. But so far, they've been too busy. A college kid would work. That's true. That's what, maybe I need to do that. You think what the nearest school is here? I'm sure there's some college here, some kid here home from college for the summer. Maybe I can do that. I'll get on. I've been wanting to go on Instagram, Facebook, and there's local talk groups and people that I'd like to find somebody that's got some references. To be honest, and I don't have a problem working with a kid that needs wants to learn how to do some work or earn some money. As long as they put in the work, I don't have a problem with it. And would think it'd be a good idea. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, that's how I earned money when I was in high school, when I wasn't working. I did have a job, but part-time job. But people I'd get somebody through the grapevine or whatever. Somebody'd say, "Hey, if he's not doing something, can he come, give us a hand?" And I did that. I was picking up jobs like that when I was laid off and got out going back to school. People would call up and want to know if I could help them for a day or two. Sure. I need to take the cabinet door to the glass coating. Yeah, Kelly, that's what I'm thinking too. I might be able. I got to see what it would. I don't want to hurt the cabinet, but I could take the door off. I'm pretty sure. And I was thinking about that earlier. If nothing else, I can use that door I can measure the door and make it. I used to make templates all the time for airplane parts that we were making and car parts when I was building race cars. We would make like poster board. We'd use like heavy poster board to make our templates usually. And I've made some very intricate templates to make inside panels for race cars and things that had to have lots of holes in the right places and skins for airplanes for that matter. And when I was doing that kind of work, so I can do that. It's just that this morning, trying to get that blasted chair out for Teddy, who's not up here, as you guys have noticed, he's still not. He don't want to come out of the house. He's still in the house. He's happy and fine, and he's okay to look out a window, but he's hesitant to go out the door. He has this true fear of like a harness. I thought we'd try to teach him to walk with a harness. Mm-mm. Well, I could do that, Tina. I could make it plexiglass. Oh, you mean the template or the actual? You talking about making the template out of plexiglass, Tina, or making just using plexi to replace the glass pane? I could do that too, because it'd probably be fine back there. Once I get it set up and put up, it won't be getting moved around. It won't get broke. Yeah, that's true. I mean, plexi would be like, I mean, it wouldn't break. And if it's clean, fresh plexi back there where it's not getting scratched up, and then it would probably work. Yeah, Teddy's not got his mojo back, Kay, and that's right. He's still trying to figure out where the basement went. You know, we had an office, we had a basement downstairs, but he had a chair and I had a chair, and we could go down there and hang out and do a show. And he sat beside me all the time. And he doesn't want to come up here. He's not sure. He's been up here once. We carried him up here a time or two. Brenda thought he would get in his carrier today and just, she could just bring him right up here. But instead, he went and hid. And she couldn't get to him. And Rat, I guarantee if I went back down in that hole, he'd just be all butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. He'd be purring and petting, kind of like saying, I'm sorry, but I ain't going. So maybe someday I'll get him back in here. I miss him. I miss him every day just because he kept me good company. I could talk, instead of talking to myself, I could talk to the cat, which might be just as crazy to some people, but made me feel a little better. I wasn't just talking to myself. And sometimes I think he understood. Maybe not. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get going and let you guys all have a great day. Don't know what we'll talk about next week. I'm thinking about trying to put together my Thursday night show again. I mean, at least I can do I can mostly do my computer stuff. Hey, not travel issues. I hate that, John. You're a jinx. No, surely you're not a jinx. Well, that's good, Tina, because I do. I talked to Teddy a lot. Well, when he was here. So what happened, John? I think you said you were flying somewhere. Did that fall apart on you? Do tell. Well, I had a magnifying glass here yesterday. And I'd been looking for, and I found it. And of course, I laid it down somewhere, and I don't see it. And the other thing I did this week, which made me mad, was Brenda has this really fancy picker-upper tool. And this tool was actually bought for, and it's made for working like in aquariums. So you don't have to be reaching your hands down in there. Well, since we haven't had an aquarium yet, set up, back reset, and this was handy. I've been using it to pick things up around the bed when I'm wanting to pick up socks or something that I don't have to bend over. Well, I tried to pick up my shorts a couple of days ago, lift them up in a bad angle with all the weight hanging extended out here, and it popped. And now it's, as you can see, limp. And it won't hold up. And it used to click, click, click. It had a ratcheting thing. You push in one side and it would lock in, and I probably shouldn't have done that. So I've got as Brenda would say, I'm trying to tim it, at least for now. I'm going to use a piece of heavy duty, super duty they don't really call this Velcro, but it's ball and peg or something. Type of a zip, yeah, that word I just said. Velcro, and use that temporarily at least to see if it'll hold it up. So I'm getting ready to find, well, I'll just find out right now. Heck, we're all here together. You might as well see if I've been successful or not. Well, that part works. I don't pick up anything heavy, Timbo. So I can pick this up. That's about as heavy as I'd want to get, but it feels solid. And then I'm hoping I can do this. I can take this and put it in another position and refasten the Velcro. And it works. Now Brenda's going to look at that and she's going to say, I didn't want it Tim rigged. I wanted it. I like it the way it was before. And I get that. And I shouldn't have broke it. So I told her to get her another one. But, you know, I like to Tim rig things because I like to fix things. And if it may not be how everybody else likes it, but if it works for me, that's all I care about. If I'm using it anyway. So anyway, quick and easy way to fix your broken handy picker-upper, pickup tool, whatever they call it. I'm still countrified enough that a picker-upper sounds like something my mom would have said. Tim, do you collect federal duck stamps? No, but I got one behind me, John. I found this one. I had an opportunity to pick this one up. It's a replica. Obviously, it's not the real thing. It's from 1980, I think. No, 88. So I did. I like them, and I wish I had collected them years ago. And probably if I had been a duck hunter, I would have probably been still collecting them. But in my part, it looks like a reach for a beer thing. Well, it could work for that, John. I think that would be an excellent idea. You can certainly wrap it around a can of beer. As long as that can of beer is still closed. If it's open and partially empty, I think you might crush it. I'd like to have collected some of them. I think they're beautiful, and the artwork in them is amazing. And so when I got a chance to get that one on an auction, I thought, I'm going to buy that. Okay, what is John trying to do? I've missed something. Diana says she's always talking to her dogs. Great therapy. They never talk back, except maybe Walter. Okay, 12 booked on the same flight, and no one knows how to get their boarding passes. Okay, well, I've done that, John. I don't know if that helps. And I'd be more than happy to talk about it. Just out of curiosity, John, what airline are you flying with? Join the airline. John, the airlines will print them if you can't use your phone. Yeah, they will. I mean, I used my phone for some of my when I went out to Mark's last year. God, whatever that was earlier this year. When was that? It seems so long ago. But I've also printed paper ones out when I had a printer that was working. I hope in the next few months I'm going to have a printer set down here right beside me or somewhere in this room. Because working from this room to down there, I'm actually on a different internet network, and I don't think I'm going to be able to I may not be able to send stuff to that printer, but we're going to see. Oh, Mickey Bunt said, I ended up standing on a chair. Well, I got my daughter Kennedy one of those picker-up things because she's pregnant. I tried to use it the other day to pull the ceiling fan pull. I'm too short to reach up to it. I ended up standing up on a chair. Well, you know what, Kelly, I'm glad you said that, because that is one of the other things that I have been using this for. The light over the bed is a ceiling fan light, and this one works. Brenda can tell you where she got it. I don't think she's in here now, but I can reach up and get the ceiling fan pull, and I can pull it with this while laying on my bed, so I don't have to get up and try to stand on the bed or find something to stand on. This one works real well for that, as long as you're pulling, straight down. It doesn't pull as well if you're going at an angle. Well, I mean, it all depends on your angle to the pull. But it works for that. You can use it for a ceiling fan activator or a ceiling light activation device. Oh, you're good. It's the other guys. Okay, I got you. We are flying to AA, Philly to Boston. I'm not the only one. No, you're not the only one. That's right. You can lead the horse to water to the trough, but you can't get them to drink. That's exactly. And you said it the right way, too. You can't get them to drink. Not that they might not drink, but you can't get them to drink. I clearly need training. Oh, you're an expert. Well, I've just had to pull maybe I've had to pull a lot of chains in my life. I don't know. Had to learn to pull things. And am I locked up again, guys? Jiminy Christmas. Oh, no, I turned my computer off. So I'm way behind. How do I get back to live on my own computer? There we go. I don't really need that one anymore anyway. John said, why did you say you were well schooled? You should be schooling them. Yes. But then again, I know how that works too, John. So sometimes it's better off just letting them figure it out. I used to like to fly on AA. We used to fly on them a lot in Nashville when I was working. That I don't know why, but I kind of got used to flying on them. And at that time period, which was in the 80s and early 90s, they were, I thought they were pretty good. And that's where my buddy Henry went to work and worked for 35 years, I guess, or so, was for American Airlines. So, I can't say too much bad about that. I like to fly Southwest. Unfortunately, we don't have a Southwest connection around here anywhere near. Maybe Chattanooga or Nashville, which are now both further away than they were. But they don't come to Knoxville. I wish they did. If nothing else, it'd give us another choice. It's pretty much in Knoxville, all we got is United and maybe Delta, which is not too bad. But I've ended up flying United a couple of times lately, so I now have a United Airlines, point thing. So I may try to use them a little bit more, but I'm not sure I'm that crazy about going United. I'm not worried about flying on their aircraft. I'm not worried about flying on Boeing's aircraft. Some people I know are, but I'm not worried about that. Most of the problems Boeing had on the news isn't Boeing's fault. Just to be honest, and I was one. It's mechanical problems for some reason. Kay says my house and the house next door was wired for pull chain light. Well, Kay, I can remember when there were a lot of houses that had pull chain lights. My grandparents' house, my grandmother's house, on mom's side particularly, I think a lot of the lights in there were pull chain because they'd been put in kind of as afterthoughts. So they wired the light up, and if that wasn't stapled to the ceiling where you could see it, they ran it through the roof, in the attic. But it was a lot easier just to put a light fixture there and put a chain on it than it was to run another wire down and put a light switch on it. So Diana says, try flying in Canada. We have two choices, expensive and more expensive, and hardly any direct flights. So who services up there, Diana? If you don't, is there an Air Canada? I can't remember. But you probably get, United or somebody like that up there, don't you? I could look it up. I just figured you might spit it right out at me. Air Canard or Air Canada and WestJet. WestJet. I know WestJet. I was thinking they're affiliated with somebody else. I think Phil used to work on their auxiliary power units. WestJet's airline partners. Delta. They're somehow hooked in with Delta. Whether you're at the airport or above the clouds, they deliver, it says. But they do work. They do evidently work along with some others. Virgin Atlantic, Qantas, which I never see around here. In fact, I never see a Virgin Atlantic around here. Maybe in Nashville you can see them because they were international airport, but you don't see that kind of traffic up here much. We did have a Concorde come into Nashville once. Oh, that was really cool. I'm glad, as an aircraft guy, I'm glad I got to see that animal, that bird fly once. It was quite, what an amazing airplane. Complicated and probably way overpriced and way too hard to maintain, but an amazing airplane nonetheless. The light switches for aesthetics. Yeah, that's largely true. Yes, Delta, but only in the U.S. No Delta. Okay, so if you did do that, you'd have to fly WestJet to somewhere in the States and then get on a Delta flight or some other country where Delta flies. That's curious, interesting. I used to know not a lot, but I used to know several mechanics that worked on stuff up in Canada. I went to school with several. I went to school with some guys from England. One guy, I think it might have been from Ireland, but it might have been Northern Ireland, so almost the same thing as UK in that point. And South Africa once. It was a very interesting. He and I had some very interesting conversations about Africa. It was back when his father-in-law had property in what we still called Rhodesia back then, which I think is Zambia. It's one of those countries that Mark was hunting just off the border, across the border from. They have their own cool. Speaking of dogs, they have a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Is a very neat looking dog. I'm not sure, if they're any good for what they do, but I guess they are. I always thought it's cool how their hair stood up though backwards. Hair on their spine. If you've never seen one stands up, most dogs do when they get excited or defensive. A Rhodesian Ridgeback, it stands up in the wrong directions. It's really funny looking. Not making fun of anybody's Rhodesian Ridgeback, mind you. I haven't seen one in a long time. Oh, well, I'm still sitting here. If you guys got anything else you want to talk about, throw it out there. I'm pretty much game. I don't have anything else planned. Brenda might. I guess I need to figure out where she went. She may be packing vehicles to travel down, get that burrito she's wanting. We may go down and look at those stones for the pathway. I want to do that. So, oh, your brother-in-law had a Rhodesian Ridgeback, John. Was that in New Jersey? Not that matters, but well, I told you, I think a week or two ago, I talked about the guy I knew that had some kind of dogs that were out of Africa. He called them lion dogs. They were from Africa, and they were for hunting or garden stock against lions. But God almighty, they were big dogs. Now, they were nowhere near as big as a full-grown lion, But they were big dogs, and they had their head. I swear their head was about as big as a lion's. And the guy I was with said, "Don't get out of the car and just sit in the car until the guy comes." I can't think of his name right now. Until he comes out and calls the dogs. He said, "I don't know if that hurts you," but he said they're too big for me. And he was a dog guy. He had bird dogs and stuff. He just wasn't gonna get out with those dogs patrolling the car. And they stand flat footed and look right at you because they were that tall. Just make sure that wasn't Brenda. Short hair, light brown dog with a dark line down its back, about 100 pounds, yeah. And the dark brown parts, like I said, was backwards. It stood up. It grew the opposite direction. Run your hand down a dog's back, and the hair runs one way, But that if you did it on a ridgeback, it all runs one way except right down the middle, and that runs the other way. I don't know how that ever happened, but I guess once they got it bred, they maintained it. Sometimes those kind of quirks happen and then they pop out again. And you don't see them. I'm still trying. Oh, there it is. I could read it that time. I thought that's what that was. I don't know. We've bounced around the subject. Maybe one of these days we'll talk about hunting and how that plays a role in conservation these days that most people don't realize. Now, not that there aren't a-hole hunters that give everybody else a bad name. That's true. I know some of them. In fact, I've known plenty, but fortunately, they're not all that way. Now, they're not all quite as respectful as I wish they were, but they're still more so than most. Anyway, that's a touchy subject with most people. We talked about before we did Mark's show. Hesitated on whether it would be too touchy, but it's a realistic thing and it's something he was doing and we're interested in. So I wanted to talk about it, and he did. He enjoyed sharing the pictures with us. So. And from time to time, we'll probably get some more that they send him or his wife sees and says, "Oh, I should have sent this one to Tim," or "How about that? What do you think about this picture?" Lots of poachers. There are a lot of poachers out there, John. Man's poor and he can't eat and he's got to go out and kill something to eat. That's one thing. But people that do it just for the sport of it or just do it to cut the head off and have antlers on his wall really piss me off. Now, John, you fish a lot, so you probably have opinions about conservation and fishing and how it affects that and the money. The money you pay for equipment and license and all that. Well, I don't know if for freshwater fishing. I don't know how New Jersey does saltwater up there. Some states didn't have saltwater licenses, but the money you pay for that stuff, there's a lot of the money that you pay for equipment and for fishing that actually goes right back into the conservation efforts for fish all over the country, and has made a huge difference in being able to protect resources and bring back species that were fished out in different places. It plays a huge role, and a lot of people. And I'm going to say this and hope I don't regret it, but I don't know what they are now. See, we're boomers. Then there's the X gens and Z gen people who seem to be so much more removed from that sort of thing. Really don't know how that works, and I think that's a shame. But now I live in an area where probably most of the kids grow up with that sort of thing going on. Hunting and fishing and raising livestock. All those things teach you a lot of hard lessons sometimes about life, but life and death is a real thing. And it can be somehow and can be very important. And I don't want to go down there today. I mean, I'd be glad to talk about it with anybody, but I don't need to get fired up about that. Brenda would probably have my scalp on her lodgepole. And everybody would wonder what happened to that guy. Why he don't write? I don't know if you guys know that's a line from Dances with Wolves. More rain. And it quit and the sun came out. Now it's raining again. Finally got my yard mowed this week. First time in over a month. But for 4 weeks of that month, it didn't grow because it was brown and the sun was killing it. We didn't have any rain. Now in the last week, it's grown like crazy, and I'm probably going to have to get it mowed again pretty quick. Because it already looks like it's high enough to mow. Which is another one of those little things I've been thinking about a lot that's been weighing on my mind. To mow or not to mow. Brenda and I have talked about it. She'd almost like to have some kind of riding lawnmower. She thinks she could get out and drive around the yard. Maybe I could too. Maybe I need to go out and sweat a little bit more, and even if it's just riding the lawnmower. But then we could use that to move not dog food, but mulch and dirt. We both have projects that require moving heavy things. It'd be nice if we had a way to do it. Because I sure as hell can't throw a big sack of dirt over my shoulder anymore and walk around the house with it, or up the ladder to the roof. I used to do that with shingle packs all the time. Oh yeah, tons of saltwater poachers. Oh, that's interesting, John. I'd like to hear more about the saltwater poachers. That's, believe it or not, the younger fishermen are great. Lots are willing to learn from the seas. That's good, John. I like to hear that. I don't know if you young know-it-alls. Yeah, I'm just more concerned that they just don't do it at all. That hunting and fishing is just becoming such a thing of the past, and that most people think there's no need for it anymore. And I'm sure there's arguments on both sides of that conversation, but it is an important tool. Now, this might be my wife. When it stopped raining, let's go to Taco Bell. I think I'm going to do an app in the rain. Yes, that anytime I fall asleep. Oh, I think she meant she's going to take a nap while it rains. But she does want to go to Taco Bell. So I guess we'll do that here in a little bit. We'll go look at the stone too. All right, guys. I don't want to sit here and bore everybody to death with my BS and not, like I said, it's just me, myself, and I out here, so I'd probably sit here and talk all day if somebody gave me half a chance. I think that's probably why Mark doesn't like to call me so much anymore. We tend to get on the phone and stay on the phone we've stayed on the phone for over 3 hours, so that's something neither one of us ever used to really do, at least not since I've been married. Now, Brenda and I used to tap the phone a lot. Tina was out hunting her lunch. And Kay, if you're still in here, I'd love to, I'd like to hear opinions. And, there's Miss Diana still with us. I don't know what John's doing. Taco Bell. Yeah, Taco Bell. Man, Brenda made cornbread and soup beans last night, and I walked in the house, and I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. Oh, God, it smells so good. It's just that combination. I love soup beans and cornbread. That's the country boy in me, I guess. I don't know. Do the folks in the room who are from the north, I will not call you Yankees, do you guys eat cornbread and beans? Or either or both? Oh, it was delicious. Which one? If you're talking about the cornbread and beans, it was delicious. And oh, it smelled so good. I mean, holy mackerel. Run for the border. Taco Bell is gone. That's right, Kelly. Tina says she has. Tuna fish sandwich and some cucumbers from the garden. Oh, no, that'd be good. Brenda would, she's really, we got here just really too late to start really thinking seriously about a garden this year, but we want to have one next year. I love cornbread and hush puppies. Yeah, me too. My mom used to make cornbread and beans a few times a month. So good. Oh, yeah, we had it. I used to say, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, that it wasn't too unusual for us to have beans at least once a week. Soup beans or some kind of baked beans, I mean, but my mom made soup beans in a pressure cooker. And for the longest time, I thought that was the only way you could make beans. And I still think that's the best way. Now we cook them in the Instapot and they come out really good that way too. Hush puppies are the best. Some hush puppies are kind of dry and tasteless. Good hush puppies are, they're just, oh, they're so good. Now she's offering to go and bring it back, but I'll go with her here in a little bit. It's pouring down rain. I'm not going anywhere. I'll tell you what, and then we have, somebody was talking about Dollywood being flooded this week or recently, and we've gotten so much rain. We've had all the counties surrounding us, and again, I live in a country where we're surrounded by ridges and mountains and hills, and some combination thereof. And up here, we were in that ridge and valley, so they kind of run in rows. And, all the water does tend to collect and run right down the middle. So we have towns and things that are in those bottoms that catch hell sometimes when the water gets up. Tim, have you watched the Cajun cooker MF cornbread, MF meat? Well, no, I'll have to look for that, John. Sounds good. I assume you mean on YouTube. I'll have to do that. Sorry, Kelly. Oh, Diana, look what she wrote. John, maybe you should explain hush puppies. You might be able to do that better than me. I can get started. I mean, they're cornbread based, and I only knew that you deep fried them or fried them in a pan with a skillet with oil, grease in it, or oil. Sorry, not grease. Growing up, lard and stuff was the oil grease of choice. But and you season them, the cornbread, when you mix them up, and you make the dough where it's kind of a putty consistency, maybe not putty, Play-Doh kind of, and you form them into little round balls or little. Mom used to make them more like a thumb, finger size and shape. And Kelly says deep fried balls of cornbread, and if they're done right, they're like deep fried balls of heaven. But some people spice them in different ways. I'm guessing that Cajun ones are probably spiced hot. Usually they have onions in them. Some places don't use onions. Some places the onion definitely adds a lot of flavor. But I don't like them if they're overdone because they can get hard and dry out. Just like cornbread too, for that matter. But oh man, if they're done right, they're just so good. Lard was best. Scoop out with a spoon and drop them in. Exactly, Tina. I bought some lard not too long ago because I wanted to see if I couldn't go back and replicate biscuits from a bygone era, and I never have sat down and done it. I need to do that because I'm going to tell you something. Lard used in a proper way makes excellent pie crust, and it makes excellent biscuits. And it's kind of like if you drink soft drinks at all, it's kind of like when you were growing up or when I was growing up, what they tasted like, and then everybody went over and started putting the corn syrup in them instead of sugar, and then of course all the diet versions came out, but it was a change, and some people don't realize it was any different. But lard, while it's probably not very healthy, or not be, if you got too much of it, it's just something about it with dough and cornbread mix, and we need to make a rule: no talking about food that I can't get in Canada. Tell you what, Diana, you might come down and see Brenda and I, and we'll make a list of things that you've heard us talking about, and we'll see how many we can make so you can try them out, okay? I'll make that promise to you. We would do that. When they found out, what did you say? I can't read it over here. Found out sugar is better than corn syrup. Yes, I drink Pepsis. I confess I do. That's definitely one of my vices. And once they came back out with real sugar Pepsi, I don't like anything else. It tastes so much better to me. And it tastes, and I think when I say that, it's because it tastes like I remember it when I was a kid. I mean, that's what things tasted like when I was growing up. You get a soft drink out of a refrigerator or something, and you've got something that just had such a. And then like I said, they started changing it. We all blamed it on. I'll tell you what happened at the same time. A lot of people I knew, and me included, we blamed it on the fact that when they went away from bottles, returnable bottles, deposit bottles, they go into plastic and throw away stuff. I always blamed it on that. I thought somehow that was making the flavor different, but it was the sugar issue. I now truly believe that when all that was the transition period, and then of course everything went to disposable and throwaway. Brenda and I were just talking about that the other day. Really wish they would go back to deposit bottles and stuff here so we could get rid of all the damn plastic. I don't mind aluminum cans so much because that does get recycled. The fact of the matter is plastic just doesn't get recycled in most parts of the country. You can't get it. I don't know if they do it around here. They collect it, but most places around here, if you go ask them at the recycle center, the actual centers, they don't do anything with it. So it ends up in the dang landfill anyway, which ends up in our oceans and our water and our stomachs and our kids' blood systems and who knows what else. Yeah, I guess it was the health craze against sugar. That was part of it, Tina. And I think, it's just my opinion, probably might not be shared by many, but I do think that real sugar in moderation is much better for you than lots and lots of artificial sweeteners or corn syrup. I really do. Oh, Kelly, that's what Brenda and I were just talking about the other day, that she wanted to go in and buy some ice cold Mexican Cokes. Sometimes you can get them here, and they have real sugar in them. And I'm telling you, it is so much better. Yes, well, Diana said something and I missed it. She says, Brenda, oh no, that's the wrong one. I got behind here. Oh, here it is, I think. But I'd love to eat real Southern cornbread. Well, you come on down and we'll do it. And we'll even work on it to be. I mean, cornbread's you can be iffy on bread sometimes, any bread. But once you do it enough, it's like the old cooks at the school when I was growing up, the ones that had been there making bread rolls for the students for 30 years. They made the best rolls, yeast rolls and things that I've ever tasted to this day. And Brenda had a friend that's all she had done for years and years and years at school was make bread. And Brenda would bring home rolls and stuff occasionally if they had some left over. Back when you could, they did that because they were throwing them out back then. and it was just so good. And I used to have a stop on my Coca-Cola route. I drove for Coca-Cola for a while. That was during my, I don't know what period of my life that was. It wasn't good. Anyway, I had a school that's when they first started putting soft drink machines into schools, which I wish they'd never done. But anyway, I had to deliver to this school. And maybe it went to the teacher's lounge. Maybe they weren't selling them to the kids. But anyway, I had to stop in there. And whenever I would go by there, I could go by the kitchen. And it would usually be about lunchtime, right before, right after when I got to that school. In fact, that high school or that school today, where I live today, is probably less than 10 miles from here. I'm not going back up there. But they used to they'd give me 2 or 3 biscuits with what we used to call government butter, school butter, that the schools could get, and it's different. I'd call it sweet butter, but I don't know what all makes it different, but it's different butters taste different. And they put some of that butter on those rolls and hand them over that counter for me. Sometimes they gave them to me, sometimes I paid for them, but they'd see me coming and they'd make me up. So, those were just the best. I'd go sit down somewhere, go back to my truck and sit and eat those. I was in heaven. Real sugar and real butter is the best. It's even better for you. Yeah, I think so. Again, it's about moderation, but you can get too much sugar, you can get too much butter, you can get too much lard. But if you maintain a healthy use of it, and everybody gets hating on soft drinks and stuff. I don't think it's so much the soft drinks as it is how much we drink of them. Think about it. Everywhere you go to eat now, it's all fast food stuff is soft drinks, unless they serve tea or, water. Maybe salt-free for one thing. And salt-free makes a difference in bread. Damn sure does. Oh, well, you mean in butter. Yeah, it could be. Back then, I didn't know the difference. But the butter that I was getting back then in the schools might have been salt-free. Yeah, I like Land O'Lakes butter. I don't always buy it because it's a little bit more expensive, but we've been buying real butter for years. And I know I've told the story. My mom hated real butter. She didn't use it unless she absolutely had to in a recipe. But most of the times that didn't work. She thought, and she told me this several times, but she thought that margarine, when it came out, and she called it oleo because that's what they called it, when it first came out. She thought that was the greatest thing, the greatest invention since airplane. Because she hated to make butter. And she had made butter all of her life as one of the younger children in the family. I guess that was her job, to sit out on the back porch and make butter. And they made their own butter. That's a real thing. And they had a churn, and she just absolutely hated doing that. I'm sure her brothers and sisters probably made her do it because she was one of the younger ones. But my hummingbirds are getting wet. I swear it looked like that one was out there shaking the water off it before it got to get a drink. I need to put an umbrella over my hummingbird feeder so they won't get wet. Anyway, she didn't like butter, so she always used margarine. So I grew up not really eating a lot of butter, and then I'd go to visit people and they'd have butter. And school had butter. So I learned that, I kind of like butter. But Mom didn't have it. Yeah, she hated real butter. She did not like real butter. She probably didn't hate it for what it was, but because she didn't like making it, she grew up not liking it, and so she didn't use it. Until her much later years in life, when she started making, I think, some pound cakes and things that she was giving away or selling, even most of the time just giving away to friends, because my mom baked a lot, and was always taking it to the church. Sorry, guys, I was putting something. I'm wearing shorts. My legs got cold. She was always taking it to bake sales for the church or the kids, and every year at Christmas she would make hundreds of these little red velvet cakes, but they were like pound cakes, and they were, small pans. And she would make. I'd walk in up there and go visit around Christmas, and her table would be covered with these little pound cakes and this icing that she put on them, and they were all red velvet, and they were so good. Oh, and people just loved them. And she might have had butter in those, but oleo margarine, she said, when they first brought that stuff into the local country store, and they brought some home, she just thought she'd died and gone to heaven. No more butter churning. I don't know how true that was, but because in a way it is kind of strange, because these are poor people growing up with their own cows, or they got cows so they can have butter. They made that stuff themselves because it was inexpensive. See you, John. Tell Dad we said hi, and have a great trip. I can't wait to hear all about it. Yeah, in fact, sometimes I'd love to talk to you about that. I've known several postal workers in my day, and you and I've never really talked about that stuff. See you in 2 weeks. Okay. Well, you have fun in Boston. Drink a beer or two for me. Okay. Tina said, Kate, I remember my dad telling me about a brand of margarine that was white and came in. Yes, Kay, that is exactly right. Mom used to talk about that. She thought that's what they used to get when they would bring it home. Margarine was white. It wasn't. It's not colorless because it's you couldn't see through it, but it was white colored or opaque, and they would sell the little packets, or somehow I don't know. I never did see them, of the yellow coloring, and you would mix that in. God knows what that yellow food coloring had in it back then. They'd mix that in and turn it to make it look like butter, which she thought was cool too. She used to talk about that all the time. Her recipe books, and we still have a couple of them, but they're full of recipes where she wrote down oleo instead of butter or even the word margarine. She would just say oleo. She used the word oleo because that's what she grew up saying. And that's really what came natural to her. But, I mean, most time around other people, she'd say margarine or butter. And honestly, she just called margarine butter. Probably until we got old enough to know there was a difference, and probably corrected her every time she said it. Because that's how kids are, I think my mom, let's see, let me turn that off. Casey, I think my mom bought margarine because she thought at the time it was better. Well, I think so too. In the bowls, yes, because good country Southern people use them bowls. There's several comedians have done some great stories about how we use our bowls. People keep their bowls. Some people don't do that. Some people do. My mom washed out and used, if she could get good plastic bowls, margarine bowls or something like that, and they were sturdy enough, she'd clean them, maybe even clean them and sterilize them somehow, and she'd freeze stuff in them. She'd make what she called freezer jam, strawberry freezer jam. Oh, God, it was so good. Again, on a hot buttered biscuit, and she'd make that and put it. You'd open her freezer door, and it would be full of margarine containers, Cool Whip containers, any kind of plastic container. I got a hummingbird wanting in. I think he wanted in the door. It came right up to the window and was looking in like, "Why don't you open this up? It's dry in there." I think that's a little female. But anyway, we didn't waste. We didn't waste diddly. All the ads say, "I can't believe it's not butter," or "just like butter." It's not. You know what? There was margarine that I remember having as a kid that did melt on toast and stuff. That seemed kind of natural to me. But I've also gone in to restaurants and other places where they had, I won't even name any names, but other brands or types of margarine. And you're absolutely right. We started calling it plastic butter because it didn't melt. And if it did melt, it didn't melt the same way somehow. In the fridge, you never knew if it was butter or green beans until you opened it. That's exactly right, Kate. That's kind of nice to know there's there are people out there who grew up the same way. Because Mom rarely wrote on them what was in them. I mean, she would know if it was usually if she'd pack freezer jam a certain way or use certain bowls, but she rarely wrote on them because next time she used them, they might have green beans in them. It's cheaper. My mom used those bowls for air. My mom used to use them in milk cartons for her baby. Yeah, I've used milk. I've seen milk cartons done that way too. You put the seeds in them and cut the top out, a row at the top or holes, and you stick the plant down in there and let it get started. The little slips or whatever you want to call them, baby plants. Egg cartons too were the best for that, and now they make plastic egg cartons. I was fussing about that the other day. Again, plastic. I'm starting to really. Plastics did so many amazing things when they were invented, and they just seemed like this was going to fix the world and so many other issues or something. I don't know. And now I look at them as a burden that somehow we've got to bear because they're not. They use up petroleum, which is not. We shouldn't be wasting on stuff like that. They use up, and they seem to live forever in the environment. I wish we'd get away from plastic instead of making a paper type egg carton. We bought eggs the other day at the Food City store, which is other than Walmart, our only grocery store here. And the eggs came in, you got this clear plastic box. And when you open it, it's actually 3 or 4. You got to open one lid and then open an inner lid. And so you got even more plastic. I mean, instead of just being a 2-piece thing where you got plastic or eggs and a lid, you got an inner lid and an outer lid. I mean, it's just so wasteful. Yeah, Cool Whip and pudding bowls for leftovers. Absolutely. It is hard to believe that pudding came in plastic container like Cool. It did. It used to. Oh, you can't buy it like that at all anymore that I'm aware of. It's either in little pudding cups or you make it at home. At least you can still do that. Although I have to add in there that when I was a kid, we made pudding. I mean, pudding, even if it was in a packet and you bought it at the store, you still had to cook it. And that pudding was better than instant pudding. I mean, instant pudding's okay for what it is, but cooked pudding is so much better once you compare the two. I got into a thing here a while back. Mom was one of Dad's favorite things that Mom ever made was she made homemade butterscotch pudding or butterscotch pies. And the pudding, the butterscotch was all homemade, no kit, no nothing. She made them at home. And I learned how to make that kind of filling. And I used to do it every once in a while. I haven't done it lately. And I guess you can flavor it in different ways. Mine was sort of like, I guess it was supposed to be like just vanilla pudding or plain pudding. I guess I could have flavored it more that way. But mine always seemed to come out kind of butterscotchy. And man, it was good. Can't remember what I used to put. I guess I used to make pies with it. Or at least the fillings. I never was necessarily good at I never made crust, but I certainly made. And my mom got to where she bought crust too. I mean, part of her was still growing up as a child in the Depression, and part of her was growing up as the woman who grew up as a child in the Depression and got over it. So, when things came along that were easier to do, sometimes she went that route. And the kids who give us a hard time about plastic bags while they're carrying everything in their tote bag in triple bags. And none of it gets recycled. We reused and recycled before it was a thing. I told somebody when I was in college, back in the 90s, when I went back to college in my 30s and 40s, I told somebody that one day. I said, I didn't realize it at the time, but my dad and my mom were the first recyclers I ever knew. I mean, it's like I've laughed about it and we joke about it, but my dad didn't throw anything away if it was reusable. But back then, things weren't made to throw away. They weren't like plastic crap. I mean, I hate plastic grocery bags, and I've used millions of them probably. I don't like them. We try to take our reusable bags to the store all the time, and we ask for paper sometimes when we can. And when the plastic bags, when they first came out and started using them, they were kind of handy. You know, they had a handle. You could fill them up, carry them out to the truck. I could put 2 or 3 over my forearm and one in my hand, and I could walk out, you know. And now I think they're one of the scourges of the earth. I do use grocery bags as trash bags, and some of the newer grocery bags, at least some of them, are supposed to be more biodegradable. Now, I hope that just doesn't mean they break down into little microplastics that are in everything, which could be. But I still use, if I get plastic bags in the store, and sometimes that's all we got, that's all they've got. You know, I've got one right now. I got a Lowe's bag right now in my trash can right here by my foot. Or as bin liner, as some people might say, or what was the other, can liner. I worked for somebody one time, and they used to talk about can liners, I guess is what they call them, because we don't say bin liners, the Brits do. Rubbish bin. Oh, what are you saying, Canada, Tina, or Diana? Are you still here? You guys refer to trash cans as trash bins, or let's see how they say it. I guess it's trash bins, because we say trash. I say trash cans usually. Same with foil and the paper bags we use to cover our books. Yeah, that's true, Tina. I've done that too. And foil. Now, my mom, and she made baked potatoes in foil, wrapped in foil. She'd clean it off and flatten it back out as best she could, and I guarantee you, we'd get it again. So you do some kind of. See, I call them trash bags, whether it was bin bag. I called them bags, trash bags. And then people were calling them liners, and I couldn't figure out what they meant for a long time. You know, like, why would you put a liner in a trash can? Just stick a bag in it or fill the can up and dump it, whatever. And then I finally figured out that liners were trash bags. I mean, just a different word or a more formal word. I don't know which. See, when you grow up like that, and you grow up like me, and you got all these old-fashioned things that set in your ways, and then they come up with all these new things, and I guess it's no wonder we grow up to be grouchy. I mean, especially if we start looking back at everything and think, you know, we just did better about some things. I walked into a pet milk company, which was a local dairy. I mean, I guess it is. It was around here years ago. It was a fairly big one, so they went around this whole area, but it's states and stuff. North Carolina, probably South Carolina, maybe Virginia, Kentucky. I don't know how far they ranged out, but I went into one in the 1970s. And this was just when they had quit delivering milk to the front door. And we had that for many years. And milk was still coming in glass jars, and they started selling it in stores in plastic. And I knew people that at that moment, loved plastic because if it didn't shatter if you dropped it. And I get that from a safety perspective, that's probably a good thing. But I went into that pet plant, and there they started showing me around different things that were going on. And we walked into a room like in an upstairs part of the warehouse or the factory or processing plant, whatever you want to call it. And it was absolutely full of quart size and larger glass milk bottles. And I said, what are you going to do? I mean, are you still why don't you use these anymore? And the guy said, well, it's just cheaper to use plastic or to use or cheap glass that they still threw away. I mean, whatever it was at that time, they didn't. You didn't take it back. They didn't take them back and wash them, sterilize them, and reuse them because that was too, I guess, work intensive and cost them more. So they went to throwaways, and everything started going to throwaways. And here we are today trying to figure out what to do about all that crap that we, threw in the atmosphere. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get environmentally politic here, but I wish we had overcome that. Tina, I have to admit, we may not agree on some things, but we definitely grew up the same, I think. Yeah, I always thought milk was better in glass. I did, but same with my mom, and sometimes we do, especially Chuck. He's older. He's older, so he's more for that era. Yes, I've done that myself. And honestly, Brenda and I she's not so much on the foil, but freezer bags we have washed out and reused for stuff a lot. I'm bad. I don't know if I'm bad. When they started putting things like jerky into heavy duty Ziploc bags. Hey, Mike, welcome in, Maple Bacon. I'd say you've been out. I'd say there's no chance in hell that there's a donut left anywhere in Winnipeg, is there? Since you've had plenty of time to eat them all. But, I'm bad about washing these out and putting parts in them off of a car or motorcycle or perhaps a gun I'm working on or gunsmithing. I mean, I reuse them. I try to use them. I hate to throw stuff away. Now, I've been called a hoarder. I don't think I'm a true hoarder. I think I would have, this room really would be full. And I'd be sitting here surrounded by newspapers and magazines. And that sort of thing. So, Mike, have you had a good morning so far? I'm a smart man. I think I'm just beginning to know you, Mike. Did you see what I said the other day about keeping your dirty, grumpy paws out of the donuts? You obviously didn't pay attention. My grandparents went through the depression. My parents were at the tail end. Yeah, both of my parents lived through the depression. Dad probably more so. I mean, Mom did too, but Dad was born, early on when it hit or right before it hit or whatever. And, they talked about that a lot. Hey, Chris, welcome in. We're kind of hanging around here late, just shooting the bull. Good to see you, though. We were talking earlier about your trip to Oshkosh and that you had a good trip, looked like, and people were talking about the pictures you put out. Busy morning. Had to go over to my buddy's house to help him drop his gas to change out the fuel pump on his truck. Oh, that sucks. What'd you do with the gas, just out of curiosity? No, I would say you might hoard books, but keeping everything reusable stuff is just the way. Yeah, I use it, and I'll have to. I mean, when it's wore out, I usually toss it, but I try to use things as long as I can. Hey, Chris, since you popped in and we're still here, we'll change the subject over just for a few minutes. Holy crap, it's almost 1:30. I mean, what was your highlight at Oshkosh this year? I might hoard books. Yeah, well, some people would say I definitely have a bad habit of that. Brenda, bless her heart, just bought me 2 new Ernest Thompson Seton books, I think, at least one. And it's supposed to be on its way. She tried to buy one, somebody else, not outbid her, but I guess beat her to the punch, so to speak, and that fell through. So the lady that had it for sale contacted Brenda the other day and wanted to know if she was still interested. So she asked me about it, and I said, hell yeah. It's not actually by Ernest Thompson Seton, it's by his daughter, but it's works of his that never got published. So while it may not have the same kind of value to other people, to me, that's cool. A little bit like reading Tony Ann Hillerman. You know, Ann Hillerman was Tony Hillerman's daughter, and in his later life, she helped him finish his books and work on his books. And then she took over, and I like hers, I think, just as well. Give me just a moment, guys. I gotta clear my head. So I'm going to turn my sound off for a moment. And I use too many of these days. When you got allergies like me, your nose runs a lot. And honestly, I'm use ones that have lotion in them or something because my nose gets so irritated. But I grew up using, and for many years, and I still carry a handkerchief, and that's what I used. I didn't use Kleenexes. Handkerchiefs were washable. Bleach them back out, and they're white. I never did really use bandanas and stuff for that. I was always tying the bandanas around my head, but you know, I have used them for. And one of these days we'll have to do that. We'll have to talk about all the different names people call handkerchiefs and Kleenex, such as snot lockers. How many planes did you nose bop? Boop. That's a good question. I would say the night air show and fireworks, the drone show was incredible. I tell you what, Chris, you're on. That's the drone shows that I'm starting to see now. Not just up there were amazing. What ones I did see, they've done some at Dollywood. That I mean, they're just. It absolutely blows my mind, and I cannot imagine what kind of work and technology it uses to coordinate 350 drones and have them all synchronized to fly and create these shapes in the sky that they can do. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Cases, I work for a company that makes bandanas and hankies. Oh, do they? I don't know if I can pull them up and show you. I have found a company that makes bandana style handkerchiefs or bandanas. Let me see if I can find them here. They are so neat. And I wanted to buy one for Mark before he went to Africa. And of course, I didn't get there. I won't be able to find them. But they're all quotes from books. They're made after like book covers. So they're copied after book covers. So they actually have one. I wish I could find that again because I wanted to order some. They actually take book covers, and one of Ernest Thompson Seton's books was about birds, of course, and it had this picture of these birds flying on the cover, and it was surrounded by like foliage, and that's how the book was printed, the hardback copy of the book. And they have a bandana with that on it, and I wanted to get me one, and I wanted to get Mark one because I wanted him to take it with him to Africa because of all the African writers that he read growing up. Ernest Thompson Seton, actually, I said earlier that one of his first books was a out of Africa kind of book, but the first book he ever got was Ernest Thompson Seton. Or, no, maybe actually, no, the first book might have been a Tolkien book, but he had Ernest Thompson Seton books right early when he was growing up, and I collect them and have several. I don't know how many, not some people would say, well, you're not really a collector. You don't have enough. Maybe that's true, but I have some, and I'm proud of them. I like them a lot. And so they've got a couple of these bandanas with Ernest Thompson seat covers. Most people don't know who Ernest Thompson Seton is anymore. So for somebody to actually make a bandana just thrilled my heart that somebody knows and has done that. And I thought that was great. Who's leaving? Because I know we got to get going. Have a good day, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be in the chat. Got things I got to get. Yeah, I know. We know you got a date with Walter. We've heard all about you and Walter now. Yeah, absolutely, Kay. Me too. What Tina said. I gotta find this because I want to show you guys this bandana. Well, that's quit raining for a minute. The hummingbirds are real busy again now. Ernest Thompson Seton bandana. Oh, please, somebody, you gotta have it in here. Oh, Wild Animals I Have Known. There's one. The Lost Appalachian Trading Company. They made one with his drawings on it. Here's somebody that's got whatever Redbubble is. They've got some for sale. I'm not even Rolf in the Woods. That's Project Gutenberg. I've got that book. Oh, I don't know. I'll find it. I'll have them on here by next week. I used to get dinged on my Instagram or my telephone messages a lot from them, and I thought I saved them because I really want to get a couple of them. And now I probably won't be able to find them anymore. They're probably still on my phone here where I never deleted them, but I may not ever be able to find them again. I don't want to do that. I know we need to stop. I need to shut up. I need to let everybody go do their Saturday thing and quit yakking here and keeping people busy. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. I appreciate you being here. I needed somebody else to talk to today. I didn't need to. I think I've wore Brenda out. She may be ready to trade me in on somebody else and get going. And if she wants to go to Taco Bell, then I guess I better get busy. So, guys, take care. Thanks again. Mike, next week, if you're going to be here, bring a few donuts. Make sure you get here with a few donuts. Maybe by next weekend, I'll have a good donut. I don't know. We've decided we don't know if there is a real donut place here in Rogersville. Might be a good place to open one. Anyway, I've kept you here extra long today. So thanks again. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you next weekend. And if I start doing the Thursday night show again, I think I started to mention that earlier. I'll let you know. And we'll see how that goes. Anyway, have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.